Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the show where we wax poetic about the movies we watch on a month-to-month basis. It's time to crack open our Movie Memoirs! All right, folks. There's a lot to get to. Big month. We had the first of the big summer movies, and in addition, Dragon, I'm not gonna lie, there's a couple sneakers in there this month that might just get into my top 20. I'm not gonna lie, a couple indies that I really like. So really solid mix of actually good blockbusters and really good indie movies this month. I was very satisfied this month. But before we get to the new releases, let's go over the news. And of course, we always start with the deaths. Not a lot of deaths this month, fortunately, but two very prominent ones in their individual fields. First, of course, we got to talk Ray Stevenson. Dragon, we'll get to it on catch up, but as soon as I heard he died, I was like, okay, I guess now is the time to watch Punisher Warzone. I don't know why I've held off on it. But Stevenson, man, I hesitate to say he's the best Frank Castle just because we got Barenthal. Barenthal is really great, but beyond just the Frank Castle of it all, because I would say for our sphere, for the geek culture sphere, that is clearly like probably his defining role. I mean, he's just a chameleon, man, just a chameleon of a character.
Yeah, no, he's certainly Ray Stevenson, one of the great actors. Again, Punisher Warzone was my well, here's the thing. Technically, I guess Punisher Warzone was not my first introduction because the other thing I knew him from was Dexter. He was in season 7 of Dexter.
I didn't get that far.
So I can't really place when that was. So maybe I saw. I'm sorry. I wasn't there from the beginning with Dexter. I kind of jumped on board after it was like when the last season was about to premiere. So I guess by that logic, Warzone was my first introduction to him, and he was wonderful in that. And then I was so delighted to see him in Thor, in the Thor films, particularly like, oh hey, that's the guy who played the Punisher, and he's doing a really great job. It was like one of the early like unsung examples of a guy who's been in other Marvel movies aside from the MCU ones. And Volstagg, had personality. He was always, here's the thing, of the Warriors 3, Volstagg, not counting it's usually Lady Sif and the Warriors 3. So of the Warriors 3, Volstagg was always the standout, because he had the coolest design.
Right.
Which again, just they show you the impact that Volstagg had. When we do Fat Thor in all the way to Endgame, when they're thinking of kind of our kind of our fat Norse Viking characters, we're pulling from Volstagg, a little tribute. But seriously, this guy, he's always been a great actor. I mean, I think one of the role I'd really recommend you check out, T, because I covered this once on Memoirs. It's a movie called Kill the Irishman. He's really good.
Yeah, I remember that coming up. Yeah, I mean, the thing about him, Dragon, is like I said, I don't really know if I've seen a ton of his stuff, but from what I know about him, he very much kind of like leapfrogs from badass action movie roles to kind of like more gentle, almost father figure kind of roles.
He was the best part of Dexter season 7. I'm going to say that he was.
Was he the villain?
Yeah, he was the villain.
Okay, well that makes sense. The villain is always the best part of any Dexter season.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, his villain was a whole thing where this guy had, he basically Dexter is trying to have a relationship in that season, so he was kind of getting love advice from the bad guy, which was him. It was done really well because the idea is like they're kind of they're very much on opposite sides, but I believe at a certain point they're kind of allied. They're trying to broker like a peace of some sort, and they're basically kind of like commiserating for a moment on the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's real nice. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. He brought a lot of levels to that character. He usually could have been like, I'm a killer, or no, like this. The difference was, he was more of a mob boss. He was kind of like I forget if it was God, I'm like here's the thing, the Greeks were in that season, but I don't believe he was Greek. I think he was like a different faction of criminal organization. Anyway, the point being, he was really good. I've never been let down by Ray Stevenson when he shows up and stuff.
All right, and then this is a big one. Not so much in movies, but I definitely have a couple really iconic movies. Probably I have seen the two movies that she's most well known for. So we'll talk Tina Turner. Honestly, from the music perspective, I don't know as much about her music as I should. I kind of feel like it's one of the blank spots on my music resume. But what I know her from primarily, Dragon, is her work on not only, of course, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. That's her most famous movie, and she is great in it. She is very electric, very much. It's weird with Beyond Thunderdome because I feel like she's really good in the movie, but she's also a little bit like it almost kind of like she almost sort of hijacks the movie from Max at a certain extent. Like it almost becomes her movie. And then the movie that I'm most familiar with her from is actually The Who's Tommy, and I believe that's from the 70s. And she plays the Acid Queen in that movie, and that's mostly what I associate her with, just kind of like a very freewheeling kind of just electric stage presence.
Yeah, you mentioned Last Action Hero, didn't you?
Yeah, Last Action Hero as well. Right. That's I only watched that the one time for catch up, but yeah, she was in there.
Oh, Ukrainian. That's what I was thinking of with Stevenson. He played a Ukrainian mob boss.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Tina Turner, I don't really know her intimately or anything. I'm not really.
Yeah, same.
But I mean, the main thing I kind of we know her in kind of the parody sense. At least I do. Like Family Guy, of course. There'd be some unfortunate Ike and Tina jokes.
right.
I mean, even like Jingle All the Way, there's like an Ike and Tina. It's like Ike and Tina, but she left.
Yeah, I feel like Ike and Tina is definitely like that's like kind of like one thing that people kind of have a shared pop culture osmosis on, even if you've never heard any of her music or anything.
That's the thing. So yeah, well, I'm not really super familiar with Tina Turner. You do. She's in there. She's been absorbed into the culture.
All right. Okay, so God, Dragon, it's like I feel like the writer strike. It's like, with all due respect, of course, to Ray Stevenson and Tina Turner, this might be arguably even worse news just for the long-term ramifications that it's going to have.
I mean, Ray Stevenson died at 58, man. That's really bad.
Okay, all right. That's totally fair. That's totally fair.
That was unfair of him to be killed at that. It's not nice.
I'm just saying, man. Like, obviously, we always cover deaths first. Deaths are always like the worst news, but this is like. Yeah. I mean, this is up there, man, and this sucks. And this also goes with my trend of. Dragon, guess where I was the day that the fucking strike started?
You were living it up on vacation, weren't you, Trip Boy?
More specifically, I was literally in the heart of Hollywood at Universal Studios, just like where I was when all the Harvey Weinstein shit broke.
Always.
And I was in Florida like 3 days before the COVID shutdowns.
Yep.
But seriously,
I just hope someone breaks your legs before you go on a trip next time. That's what I really hope happens.
Oh my God. The writer's strike, man, I am, like, obviously, I think this probably goes without saying, but we on So You Want to Be an Imagineer very much 100% support the writers. At the same time, though, like, it's scary. It's like I very much hope that they actually come to some sort of resolution, and I hope that they get what they want. Because like the fate of Hollywood really is kind of hanging in the balance with this. It's really like I feel like the stakes are even higher now than they were in 2007, and I feel like the big stakes now are going to be unlike in 2007, where the only real thing that they had to go against the writers was like, okay, roll out the reality shows. We actually have AI now, and it's so it's like if things go south for this writer's strike, and if the deals just don't go through, and if the unions just kind of start falling apart as a result, Dragon, we're going to be looking at some very, very soulless content for a long time to come. And that's, the long-term ramifications of that. I don't know. I am quite concerned.
Yeah, so a couple things about the writer's strike. So yeah, last time we had a writer's strike was '07. This is why Breaking Bad has a shorter season than the rest, and why this opening of season 2 of Breaking Bad is the Tuco stuff that should have ended season 1.
Right, right.
But yeah, so for those who may wonder, like, yeah, what's a writer's strike? How does that affect us? Well, folks, unfortunately, a writer's strike means, like legally, all the apparently the animation's an exemption. I learned that recently. Apparently, the animation there's an animation guild, so apparently we can still get animated stuff. So at least there's somewhat of a silver lining, but still, at least some part of the industry is going to be unaffected. It sounds like, but some of the animators are standing in solidarity, so they're kind of refusing to write in that vein. That's why Family Guy is kind of like, I forget what the official term is here. Basically, it's on hiatus, but essentially, he's always been right willing to leave Family Guy because he's acknowledged, like most of us publicly, yeah, the ship has sailed on that. Basically he's collecting the paychecks for Family Guy at this point, using it to fund the Orville. I can't blame him. But yeah, so last time we had that, it was between I think '07 and '08. I think it went on for a year, which is terrible. Okay, there we go. At least the writer's strike doesn't affect animation, although Seth MacFarlane and I think others stopped working on Family Guy because of it. Well, I mean, yeah, that's a thing. It sounds like I think it's like a solidarity thing. I don't think they're technically held to that standard. But MacFarlane, here's the thing: MacFarlane was very much there during the other writer's strike back in the day. So he's very much just kind of showing support.
Okay.
Tiki, you might want to rejoin when you get a chance.
Hey guys, I'm gonna check. Can you not hear me at all?
No, I can hear you, Tiki. It's just you're cutting out really badly.
Okay, you know what, Dragon? Go through as much of the news as you can. I'm gonna restart my computer and come back, okay?
Okay.
All right.
All right, folks. I'm just going to take a moment just to recap the strike and what's bad here. So, again, for those who may not be aware, it's mainly two factors that's happening right now. Okay, it's two factors we're dealing with why the strike's happening. It's essentially residuals for streaming and the AI fears. So essentially, with the I guess when the original, the last time the writers' strike ended, or at the very least, last time terms were dictated for how that works, essentially, it was working at a time way before streaming had kind of blew up the way it did. Has blown up the way it has, in which it was like, people can watch things on TV, and anytime they watch it, the writers and the people responsible for it will get compensation, like an actor would get residuals. The problem is that streaming, people they only got paid to do the job and not for all the times people binge it. Because at that time, I think technically they apply themselves, they probably could find a way to actually tally how much people watch stuff, but it would be like, oh my god, they're watching it again and again and again, especially while we're waiting on more seasons of Stranger Things and so on and so forth. People are going to rewatch things, so it'd be incalculable and probably bankrupt studios. At least that's the way they see it. So they need to they're working on updating the streaming terms, like seeing if they can either give like a big bolster of like what that initial payment is, or somehow track like a rewatchability thing, or at least if someone binges the whole show, do all the writers get paid? It's a whole myriad of things. I'm not privy to what's exactly is going on there, but essentially streaming rights is one thing. The other thing is the fear of like, hey, if the strike goes on, Hollywood doesn't bulk, they could go AI with things. Basically, just type in all like the previous scripts of other shows, and then just kind of like mix and match, and we get new stuff that's very artificial and very just fill in the blank as AI kind of works. The downside to the writer's strike mostly is how it's affecting Deadpool 3, for me at least. Yeah, for those who may not be aware, so Deadpool 3, Ryan Reynolds is not allowed to improvise because he's technically additionally a writer on the project.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah, I know. And this,
So they basically got like one draft of the script, and that's what they have to use.
I mean, I don't know how many drafts they were able to complete before starting. Because right now they're shooting. They just started shooting like probably like either last week or this week, and that means they're stuck with whatever draft or how many drafts up to that point they had. Now, good news is that Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, again, I've gone about this story way back when. The original Deadpool script, the only changes to that script that were made really were just budgetary things. Like
That's true.
there
Yeah.
was a big shootout, so that's why Deadpool forgets his ammunition bag in the third act of Deadpool because they didn't have the budget for a whole gun battle. So like very minimal changes were made to that script, and even if that original script were made like 100% to a T, it still would have been amazing. I can attest to that. So good news is we're still going to have really good stuff there. The problem is that even if the strike is resolved after after they're done shooting, the good news is that Ryan Reynolds can still improvise and record things, but that's assuming the strike ends even after they finish shooting things. Okay, if it's like after the movie comes, obviously after like when the movie's coming out, it's gonna be far too late. There's like Ryan Reynolds can only re-record so much dialogue, and it can only so much can happen there. So basically, I am rooting for this writer's strike to wrap up sooner rather than later,
Right, right.
and as immediately as possible, so Deadpool 3 will be unaffected by this, because that's the thing that's killing me right now. So your trip has screwed me over majorly, boyo.
All right, Richard's victims. I apologize, man. I would have shouted you out sooner, but I've been having some technical problems here. He says, Tiki, please, for everyone, don't go on any more vacations. One of these days you might accidentally cause World War III.
Yep.
Tiki goes to Hawaii. Oh, God, China just attacked Taiwan and U.S. declared war.
Yep.
Tiki, oh, God damn it.
So that's what I'm saying. So Tiki has now hurt something very near and dear to me. So thanks.
Oh, God.
So here's, honestly, here's what I predict might happen. I believe it or not, I think Stranger Things might be one of the big things that turn the tide in this whole streaming thing. I'm not even saying it's like this.
We gotta make sure that Stranger Things gets out. Let's do the deal.
No, but seriously, think about it. Netflix is going to be, of all the studios, Netflix is going to be probably the most under pressure for the streaming thing, but also the fact that people want to see Stranger Things. They've already have to wait like a year for it, and now that delay is being
those kids are literally going to be in fucking college by
that's what I'm saying. My hope is that we're gonna use these kids like a bargaining chip.
You know what would be really smart actually is if they just did a flash forward and literally made them college age in the final season.
Tiki, we're hoping this is going to be leverage to end the strike. So maybe let's not.
Okay, I'm saying the kids in their current like 2023 form.
Well, I think the rumor right now is that's what they're going to do, Tiki. So they're going to do a flash forward of some kind. We just don't know how far, but hopefully it won't be too much by the time the strike is
right.
It's done. That's what I'm saying. So right now, it just seems like this. You kind of missed this, but I kind of summarized the whole streaming thing, where essentially, the writers aren't getting residuals for streaming, which is another reason. Is like one of the two reasons for the strike. That and the AI.
And Dragon, I mean, I know this isn't what you want to hear right now, but like I'm kind of on the side of like, as much as it sucks, I just want the end result to actually be, like what the writers actually want, and for them to get out ahead. And some stuff might suffer as a result, and I am terribly sorry that Deadpool 3 might be one of those things, but I don't know. Like, for me, I'm kind of looking out for, like, like the long term here, because if we just kind of, like, just quickly get a resolution that doesn't really solve anything, then I don't know. All I can say is that I've already got my list of catch-up shows, and let's just say Dragon over the next year or two, depending on how bad the current content output is. I'm going to be definitely making a dent in that.
Do you remember if the last strike lasted a year or not?
No, it lasted like 3 months, I think, something like that. But I do think that this current strike is a lot more complicated, because that last strike was basically just about wages, and this is more to do with residuals.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I guess moving on to more bad news.
Right.
So Disney Plus is on my last nerve lately.
Oh, dear God. Yeah, it's just like mediocre streaming shows and just cutting content. And
so this is like a thing that Disney Plus unofficially they promised would not happen, and they went back on it. So they essentially, like all the other streaming services were the ones that were axing things. Disney Plus had not really done that. They had not really axed shows until now, and presumably because the assumption is that it has to do with the strike. The assumption is like right now, Tiki. If I'm a betting man, I'm going to say I think one of the at least in the meantime, while they're figuring things out or they're preparing for the ultimate solution, what have you, the streamers are going to cut back severely on the content they have. So if they do end up paying residuals to writers, they're going to trim it as much as they can so they can keep on budget.
I mean, I honestly don't know enough about the semantics. That's probably it, but I don't want to like.
I'm mainly going off of what Bernard said. Bernard's like in the trenches right now. He's like walking the picket line. He's the guy that knows most about this right now. So that's all. I'm just repeating the majority of what I'm saying. So I'm speculating on the Disney side of things, but everything I said earlier about the strike is what I've heard from Bernard.
Okay.
So I'm speculating that it seems like they're getting rid of all these. They're getting rid of more titles. Even streamers said they would never do that sort of thing, only so they can so they can probably if the resolution is like, okay, we're gonna pay him for like how many times it's viewed, or at least some number of like every like probably 1,000 views, we'll give them a residual, extra residual, or what have you. They're cutting things, but here's what really sucks about it. Why did they not wait until like a round number, like, hey, June 1st? No, it's got to be May 26th.
Right.
For some reason, the 26th, I was going to try and binge some of these things for one last time, because thinking it was going to be the end of the month, or at the very least, the 28th. But no, it's got to be the 26th.
I'm guessing it probably has to do with like a quarterly like cutoff or something. I don't know.
I'm sure, but it's ridiculous. So just, I mean, out of the blue, a bunch of shows and two really good ones got the X. One of them, Tiki.
Yeah, The World According to Jeff Goldblum, which really hurts on a personal level for me because I was going through a bout of depression a few months ago, and that show legitimately like got me out of it. Like, that show is just straight up like it's like chicken soup for the soul, except good and not corny. It's legitimately just going out of its way to show like all the awesome things that life has to offer, and it's gone.
And then I found this one out in the worst possible way ever. I saw this like I kind of clicked the link and I was like seeing Paul Rugg. He kind of posted some Freakazoid stuff, and I saw this. I scrolled down. I saw like Earth last chance to watch Earth to Ned. And I was like, wait a minute, last chance to watch Earth to Ned. What? And then I frantically checked the list of all the stuff going. I was like, no! And this was after everything went, by the way. It's like, no! No! So I found out the worst possible way that Earth to Ned was gone. But yeah, so that just utterly sucked. It ruined.
I mean, as much as I liked Earth to Ned, I feel like, with that, it was like a talk show with like a rotating cast of celebrities and stuff. Like, I feel like at least logistically, that's a little bit more understandable. I like World According to Jeff Goldblum was literally just Jeff Goldblum being an awesome person and interacting with other awesome people. And it's just like, I don't know. It really bothers me. I mean, obviously Earth to Ned is a loss too, but
Jeff Goldblum's going to bounce back, man. He'll be fine. Okay. Goldblum will find something. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm saying like, I'm saying that show was literally like medicine for me. It's like, I don't know. I'm legitimately sad to not have it as a fallback if I just need something, something nice to watch. It was just always a good option for that.
I had Henson Entertainment and Paul Rugg as another blue character, Tiki.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay, Paul Rugg and the Henson Company and a blue character. And we had Kevin Smith for an episode. All of it gone.
All right.
All right.
Okay, let's see. Z and K says of all the National Geographic stuff they could have gotten rid of, they got rid of the one thing that everyone wanted to watch. Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a really good point. Like, day one, World According to Jeff Goldblum was literally like the banner thing on the Nat Geo side of things.
Yep.
Man, so yeah, I mean, it's just very discouraging. You know what else is discouraging, Dragon?
What?
Hollywood not letting old IPs die.
Yeah, well, this one's on the fence because the original director is coming back.
Tim Burton?
No, what are you talking about?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Beetlejuice.
No, oh, sorry. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Did you?
Did I miss something?
I'm trying to see if you rearrange something. No, wait. No, you jumped ahead, Tiki. Yeah, no, it's still we're not there yet.
I'm sorry. What are we at on my master list? It's
How to Train Your Dragon, the live action thing.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, this is another example of like I don't know. I'm even less on the fence about this than I am about Beetlejuice. I just actively don't like this.
Well, here's the thing. So yeah, so I just heard about. Well, yeah, we just heard about this. So yeah, the How to Train Your Dragon live action remake. So this is something that Universal's doing. Here's the interesting thing that has me curious, but still the point still remains to get in your corner there. Of like, why bother? But Dean
It's
Dubois.
just kind of like the live action Moana thing. It's like it just feels like the original. The original's a classic, but it's a modern classic. You know.
That's true. And here's the thing that we don't have. We so often do not have though. Dean Dubois is coming back to do this. It's going to be his live action debut. And you got to imagine, Dean Dubois he made this trilogy. It was something special for him. You have to imagine, at least best case scenario, you have to imagine, like, he wouldn't come back at this if not for a reason. And they're saying there's something about trying to blend the books and the animated movie a little bit more in this live action attempt. I mean, look, I'm not championing this thing, but it's just interesting that Dubois is coming back for this, man.
I mean, that is definitely interesting, and you know, if they stick closer to the books, then
That's the
that'll
thing.
be
That sounds like he's got a take in mind, which I mean, he's got to have one heck of a take if he's going to come back and do this. But then again, the same time, it could just be Universal trying to do a big old cash grab here, which is most likely what's I don't know if they just like dumped like a big old truck of money on his lawn or what. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They revealed two bits of casting. Mason Thames from Black Phone and Nico.
Oh, okay.
So
I know that kid.
So he's playing Hiccup.
Oh,
And we
yeah.
have
I think he could be really good. And then I'm sorry, who's playing Astrid?
well, you might know her as well. She's from The Last of Us. Nico Parker.
Okay, she must have had a smaller role in The Last of Us because honestly, besides the two leads, no one else really has that big of a role. But
Nico Parker or Nico Parka. I'm kind of blanking on the last, but yeah, so her. But I assume not the main girl.
no, that would be Bella Thorne. But
There you go. Yeah. So
or
yeah,
I'm sorry, not Bella Thorne, Bella Ramsey. A
yeah,
different Bella.
she's playing Astrid.
Okay. Dragon, can I just call out something?
What?
I'm just folks, can we just please stop with the being racist about the race bending the casting thing? Seriously, in the geek culture community, can we just please stop doing that? Can we just please stop making a thing out of it every time a white character gets recast as is a person of color? I'm so sick of this being a discourse. Like, you know, The Little Mermaid might not be a great movie, but I think Haley Bailey knocked it out of the park. And that poor girl went through so much shit, and I can just see the media train just going at this poor girl as well. Like, oh, it's Norse mythology. What the hell? You can't have a black person in a Norse setting, or I'm sorry, whatever nationality she is. All due respect. And Dragon, I'm so honestly, people like that, just straight up. I'm gonna get up on my soapbox here for just a second. People like that make me not want to like even be in this space as a podcaster, because I feel like people like that give all of geek culture a bad name, and I'm fucking sick of that discourse. My patience for that kind of discourse is at my wit's end.
Yeah, Tiki, but I think you really jumped the gun. We could have saved that from when we actually talk about the movie.
Well, I'm sorry. It's just the news of the casting. That's what everyone's discussing, is the fact that Astrid is not a white blonde girl.
No.
Anyway.
All right. So let's see. So I guess moving on to Beetlejuice 2.
All I can say about this is that I have, for years and years and years, heard so many rumors about a Beetlejuice 2. I've seen so many like fake bits of fan art and clickbait on Facebook and other social media, you know, fake posters, Johnny Depp in Beetlejuice 2, shit like that. So with that in mind, Dragon, with this, I know it's announced, but like, it's going to be hard for me to wrap my mind around the fact that it's real until we actually get a trailer.
I mean, that's true. I mean, obviously, Beetlejuice has been kicked around for a long time. I mean, even by the days of Kevin Smith in '96, you know, we had a Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian in talks. And this thing, Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, actually, like in development at the studio. This was not a rumor or anything. This is actually like there was a script and everything. They showed Kevin Smith. At least they pitched. Oh, sorry, I didn't show him. They pitched Kevin Smith. They wanted like, hey, you want to do Beetlejuice too?
Are there any directors? Like, do we have a director for this?
I'm pretty sure they said Burton's gonna do this.
Oh man. Oh. You see, honestly, if it was like, I mean, I knew he kind of blew it on Love and Thunder, but I think Waititi would be perfect.
I mean, yes, but still, isn't it interesting that we've had, correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't had Burton like return to something like this. Like you haven't had him come back to one of his originals.
Not since no, not for any of his originals. No, I was gonna make a dumb joke and say he hasn't returned since Batman Returns.
Funny. That's what I mean. We haven't really done that. We haven't really revisited with him.
I mean, they made that shitty Through the Looking Glass movie, but he had nothing to do with that.
But doesn't it stand the reason that if anything's in this world is possibly going to bring Burton back? I mean, just even like not even just like as an artist, but just stylistically, if he has to be consistent with the previous,
right,
he would have to be consistent with himself. So anything could possibly get Tim Burton at least in the direction.
Right, if anything's going to save this movie, it's not going to be Tim Burton. It's going to be Michael Keaton.
Well, that's always. So right now, Keaton's in the phase of his career where it's like, I'm going to go back and just kind of make everyone love the roles I played before. Hopefully, fingers crossed, make it even better.
You know what? I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So we've announced.
Ross 2.
Okay, so here's who we've announced so far. We have Michael Keaton. We got Winona Ryder. We got Jenny Ortega playing Lydia's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So we have Justin Theroux. There's Catherine Harris. She's coming back. Let's see. Monica Bellucci. Bellucci? Is that how you say it? Yep. Monica Bellucci. And here's the most intriguing one. Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, that's definitely pretty intriguing.
Yeah, Dafoe. He's probably just gonna be like one of the people from the Netherworld, from the kind of the others, kind of the.
I mean, I hope he actually has a decent part. Like, I could see him. I mean, I genuinely hope that they just do it like the original, where Beetlejuice is more or less the antagonist. But if they need a full-on villain for the movie, I could see him being it. That's
the thing. If we're going to do the antagonist route, Willem Dafoe's the only one who could really go stand toe-to-toe with Keaton, if you think about it. But
also, thank God Jared Leto's not in this movie. I could just see this being the type of movie that Jared Leto could worm his way into.
Yeah, part of me wonders if we're going to get Justin Theroux to play Ortho.
That would be fun.
That would be funny, but again, I'd be more like, okay, we don't have to make everyone like come back, and that's the thing. Sadly, he passed away, which is why he's not coming back. So that's why Theroux would step into that role. Then there's the question of Lydia's father. We're not going to talk about that right now.
Yeah.
9 times. So anyway. But yes, I don't know. Beetlejuice too. It's it's interesting. It's always good to see Keaton back, and of course, he had such a great performance as
Dragon. I'm not gonna lie. A part of me, like my childish little kid optimism, every time there's a new Tim Burton movie, beyond something that just looks just like a fucking turkey right out of the gate, like a Dark Shadows or something. Every time there's like a little bit of naive, childish optimism that he is gonna make a comeback, and that hasn't died. So like even with Dumbo, there was a little bit of naive, childish, like, oh, maybe he could actually do it, So who knows? Maybe this is he is more than overdue for a comeback. All right.
Okay. So on to more happy news, I guess.
I mean, I would say I would slot Beetlejuice 2 into cautiously optimistic.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying we're making the transition with Beetlejuice. Again,
I actually am more optimistic about Beetlejuice 2 than I am about the MCU stuff on our list, so I'll put it
really?
Back.
Well, we only had dates revealed for that, Tiki. I don't really think that's like...
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about one of them.
Anyway, so...
Crypto the super dog is going to be in Superman Legacy. Very excited about this. I mean, James Gunn just proved that, he knows how to work with anthropomorphic animals, and I think it's right up his alley. I think it's a really smart move to distinguish his Superman movie from other Superman movies. It's really something to
to kind of like bring his style into the forefront, I couldn't be happier about it.
We've never done the dog in live action, so this will be big. Yeah.
Have you seen the League of Super Pets movie yet?
Nah, well, I mean, here's the thing.
I'm tempted to check that out just as a rainy day watch. Honestly, I've heard it's okay.
I mean, I gotta tell you, man. The thing is, it stops me from as much as I love Kevin Hart and other things. I can't abide Kevin Hart as Ace the Bat Hand.
You can't abide it.
You can't
abide.
Okay, it's not even the thing. You look at it's two things. Okay, it's Kevin Hart as Ace the Bat Hound. That's the fact that he's playing Ace the Bat Hound. It's the fact that it's two things. One, they gave him powers and made him indestructible, which is a betrayal of Ace the Bat Hound.
Oh God.
Okay, it's like, no, he's just a regular dog and he's got gadgets. It's not that hard.
Well, I think the movie looks fun.
And we had like a bathroom joke in the trailer. It's like, really, we're gonna come on, man, just let him be. Just let Kevin Hart like play over serious, or like he thinks he's serious. I don't know. We can't just let it be. We gotta. I don't know.
Oh God. All right.
Anyway, I mean, yeah, looks he has a few laughs, and I won't lie, but still, it's also now is The Rock just kind of like his stuff with DC's like, come on, Dwayne.
Dwayne.
That's what I'm saying. He lost his rock.
With the exact cadence that Adam from Your Movie Sucks refers to Jon Favreau as just John.
But doesn't it feel like, after all the BS with Black Adam, it just feels like you lost your rock privileges. I'm sorry. There's no access to the Rock of Eternity for you, Buster. Yeah, anyway. So that brings us to so there's Marvel news.
Yeah, so Dragon, here's the thing. I mean, Loki season 2. Obviously, there's a big fat elephant in the room when it comes to that. Like, I would be excited about it otherwise.
Can we say the news first, then talk about it?
Sure.
Okay, so we have release dates. We have Loki season 2, which has been confirmed for October 6th. Echo is coming this year as well, November 29th. And again, like this month, I believe we have Secret Invasion. So that's what we're looking at in terms of the Marvel say. It was up in the air, like what's coming out with all the writers strike and everything moving around and all that. So now we know what's supposed to come out this year, at least unless anything gets catastrophically moved again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Loki. So Loki's in a kettle of fish right now. And you were right, they did move it away from the summer.
Yeah. And I still don't know what they're gonna do. Like,
did you? Oh yeah. So did you talk about this yet? About the whole the majors correlation to the writer's strike?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. So the word on the street is, I forget if Bernard said this or not. I don't know if I forget who I've heard this from, if I talked about it with you or not. Is that because of the writer's strike, the theory is like even if they wanted to kind of write some way out of the Jonathan Majors thing, especially if they wanted to do rewrites or anything on Loki or anything, or do reshoots of Loki, they are unable to right now.
That is so true. Oh my God.
That means
you know what? Part of me kind of loves the irony of that, and it just goes to show Disney's hubris kind of catching up with them.
So that's the thing. So right now, like it or not, at least for a while, until the writer's strike's resolved, we are.
Oh dear God, dude!
Jonathan Majors. I mean, remind me, T.
That is just going to be so fucking uncomfortable.
Without dredging anything further up on the matter, T, just kind of a yes or no sort of thing.
Okay.
Like the stuff on Majors, is it found? Are we going fully founded, or
I believe it's like the court case is literally like in development right now. I believe.
Okay, so the point. So basically, what we're operating now is it's insane. It's an insane.
I mean, I'm sure that like the one narrative that Disney can possibly push in this case is like the whole innocent until proven guilty thing.
But my point is, tell me if I'm reading it right here. It's just the fact that it's more like kind of publicity damage than anything else at the moment. So right
at the moment, yes, there's nothing legally, like he's not going to prison imminently or anything.
That's what I'm saying. He hasn't copped anything. It's just sort of like right now. It's an insane amount of bad press, and Disney in the worst position they could be possibly in terms of like he's our Thanos. Well, he kind of might be. So that's not good.
He's your Thanos in terms of he just snapped away half of your plans for future movies.
Essentially. It's so funny if they just cut out the one scene at the end of Ant-Man.
I know, dude. I mean, but that's the thing, though. It's like, that's not the problem. I am willing to bet that he is a major focus in at least, I would say probably at least half of the episodes of Loki season 2.
Well, you gotta remember, he was the big cliffhanger of the first.
That's what I'm saying, man. So it's like I genuinely like. There's just no. I don't know. I'm honestly more fascinated with how they're going to handle that from a PR point of view than I am interested in the actual show itself. I mean, I'm interested in the show itself. Don't get me wrong. I want to see some more Owen Wilson action. You know, we need to see him on a jet ski. That needs to be a payoff.
I mean, you got to be honest. Anyway, a slice of it. Majors was really good in Ant-Man, Quantumania. So, you know, I
honestly wasn't too impressed with him. I highly preferred the High Evolutionary as a villain.
Okay, but before you got the High Evolutionary, I thought you were riding pretty high on Kang, though.
I wasn't really riding that high on him. I think he had one really standout scene, which was his introductory scene with Scott. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I kind of feel like he just got progressively less threatening as the movie went on. I don't want to drudge Quantumania back up.
All right. I think you're backpedal a little on that, but we're just gonna move on. Okay. So, Echo.
Was I even on the Quantumania podcast?
What?
Was I even on the Quantumania podcast?
I'm pretty sure. Like, we did the whole ice cream.
I'm pretty sure I was in the comments, and it was like you, Jacob, and Rohit.
Did you crash the podcast though?
No, I was in the comments.
Are you sure? Okay.
All right. Anyways.
Point being. All right, let's see. So Echo is coming out again November 20th. The main thing is the
I hate to say it with Echo, but it's like that's just very much like an example of I don't care. I'm probably not even gonna watch it.
Look, one way or another, I'll just go for broke. I'm just gonna tell you. All right, just Echo. I'm clinging desperately to any of our Daredevil connections right now.
Well, yeah, no shit. That's the only reason to watch it. But for me, I'm probably just gonna wait for the YouTube compilation of all the Kingpin footage, if there is any, and kind of call it a day.
Well, sure, but I guess it's just the fact that right now with the strike just pushing all the Daredevil shooting, and they had to stop shooting. And I love this. From what I understand, like D'Onofrio's like taking pictures with people just because we're not allowed to shoot anymore. So let's just
my god.
You know, like to that degree. So based on that, I'm just going to desperately clean any of the Daredevil related stuff we are going to get. Echo definitely has major ties to that. I'm hoping Kingpin is like the main antagonist of that season, which will easily get my business for that show.
What if he's the main antagonist of the season, but he doesn't show up until like episode 6 out of 8?
Okay, that's gonna.
Because you know that is the Disney Plus MO.
Well, all I know Daredevil. The word on the street is that Matt Murdock, Daredevil and/or Matt Murdock will show up for one episode in this.
Ooh, one episode, one shiny episode. But again, I'm sorry, I'm being a dick, but
that's just it. But again, flip side, Kingpin in theory.
I'm just saying, after the fans got jerked around with She-Hulk, dude, with Matt Murdock.
I'm just saying, man.
I feel like we kind of need him for more than one episode to save this show.
Well, that's true, but if it's like the Kingpin season where Kingpin's going to be our bad guy.
If it's the Kingpin season, then by all means. And don't get me wrong. Even if I hear it's not great, but if I hear that Kingpin is very important in it, I will probably still watch it.
Because my hope I'm just saying this and we're going to move on. My hope for Echo is that what we're going to do, because the word on the street, it's not 100% confirmed, but the word on the street is that we're going to do the whole Kingpin run for mayor thing with Daredevil. So we'll see how that goes. The point being, to get him to that place, my theory, assuming we do that, is that Echo is going to be the humbling journey of Kingpin getting back to returning to his prominence in terms of he was, he's either shot in the eyes, blinded, or deafened, depending on how we approach it, because we left it ambiguous at the Hawkeye. So he's going to go on a healing journey of some kind, probably seeking some revenge while he's at it. So we're going to do might have a big Kingpin arc that could get us to wherever we're going to be at Born Again. So that could be really interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay. So moving on, we got. Oh, yes. Sam Raimi rumors. We have 2 big Sam Raimi MCU rumors that sound really exciting. Of course, one, it's kind of a no-brainer. Hey, we're going to bring him back for Doctor Strange 3. That one's probably going to happen.
That's a no-brainer, yeah. But the Avengers one, though, that's the curious one.
And not just an Avengers one. So remember, it's going to be Kang Dynasty. I think isn't it Kang Dynasty, then Secret Wars?
I'm pretty sure it's both of them, yeah.
Well, I know it's both, but I'm saying there's going to be 2 of them. I mean the order in which I think it's Kang Dynasty, then Secret Wars. I think we're building 2 Secret Wars as our new endgame.
Right.
So we're potentially giving our new endgame to Sam Raimi. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, that is exciting. I don't know. I'm not.
It's a lot of responsibility.
I'm not huge on Multiverse of Madness, so it's like. And Raimi is kind of the sort of director where I feel like he thrives the more creative control he's given. What I'm hoping, though, is I'm hoping that Marvel has seen the difference between, like the movies that have been very studio tinkered with and their responses, like the Eternals and the Quantumanias of the world, compared to something like Guardians, which is very much, Volume 3 especially. Like, Volume 3 was probably the most auteur out of all of the Guardians movies. So I'm hoping that with that in mind, that might lead to a turning point, especially with, with them looking at James Gunn as literally the main competition now. That hopefully is going to be a turning point for Marvel kind of giving their directors more freedom.
I mean, here's the big thing. There's a recurring problem with the MCU in which we keep changing directors, like in the early stages, in which we have a director like, don't get me wrong, obviously I think things for the most part they worked out really well with Sam Raimi for Multiverse Madness, but it's still, good or not, what we did get from that movie. You have the fact that we had Scott Derrickson, that was his baby, and then we handed it off to Sam Raimi. So you have like the DNA of the same thing we had with Ant-Man, Edgar Wright, and then he got passed over to Peyton Reed. But that turned out great though. So it's just still that you have that lingering question, even if you do get something that's good, it's the question of like how much of this is going to be the original guy's vision versus if we stick with a director who had a real passion for this from the beginning. And it was there. So Sam Raimi is like, you got to wonder how much of that is like, assuming this does happen. It's like, Sam, have you ever wanted to do Secret Wars? Well, I mean, I wasn't going to pitch it or anything, but if you want me on for it, sure, I'll direct it for you. Right. So that's the thing. So I just hope that, Sam Raimi, if he does it, this will be like the biggest movie he's ever done, given how, low budget he usually goes with things, and it's kind of like Doctor Strange so far was like the biggest thing he had done, not counting the Spider movies, which he kind of started, which then got big, So that's the honestly, I like to think though, no matter what happens though, the vibe I get from Doctor Strange Multiverse Madness is that I think Feige, because he was there during kind of the groundswell of things, like he worked his way up. I think he and just everyone in general has major respect for Sam Raimi. They're not going to get in his way. I feel like he's like the director has that clout because he's like.
I mean, the dude literally kind of invented the modern superhero genre as we know it.
So that's what I'm saying. Because of that, I think Feige is going to give him all the room he needs. The question of how early they're going to commit to him directing versus like we're going to put him on the project at a certain point in time. Because that's the only thing getting in the way of him having all the control he needs. Because if someone's like, oh, no, we laid this out, so you kind of have to fit into this framework. Anyway. Okay, so trailers.
Yeah, we got a lot of kind of like second and third trailers. I will say the Barbie trailer has me stoked. I think with that second Barbie trailer, I'm officially having that as my most anticipated movie of the year above Asteroid City. But the biggest trailer that came out was Killers of the Flower Moon. And Dragon, I gotta say, this looks fucking exquisite.
Yeah. It looks good. I mean, I'm more intrigued by it than I'm sold on in terms of only for the reason that Scorsese looks like he's really breaking his style on this one. That could be really interesting. It looks interesting.
That's what I'm intrigued by, though. Like, it's kind of like going back to, sort of like in the 80s when he would be a little bit more experimental. Like, I'm intrigued by the fact that it's not just another gangster movie. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, that's kind of like one of my favorite modes of Scorsese is when he isn't doing the gangster stuff.
Which we've rarely seen, but it has happened.
But I'm saying, like, when it doesn't happen, it's almost kind of like Nolan not doing, it's kind of like Nolan in Dunkirk, like, that was like the one movie of Nolan's that didn't have any sort of like weird high concept to it, and that is like my favorite Nolan movie. It's like sometimes directors getting out of their style and challenging themselves is like really what leads to the most interesting, creative, passionate movies. So I don't know. I'm very much looking forward to this. I think I'm a little higher on it than you are.
Well, it's not that I'm not high on it. I'm just saying I think we're all going in just looking forward to him doing something kind of different. Plus, he's adapting a book, and I don't know. There's a lot of. It's not the first time he's done that, I'm sure, but obviously technically you have stuff like the source material for Goodfellas and everything there. But I don't know. It's
I'm adapting a book about what?
About Native Americans. Here's the thing. There's only one thing I'm concerned with this movie, really. There's a risk of preachiness. Because I saw that one bit where he had like all those. I think it's just gonna be like for a sequence, so it should be fine. But it's still just like one of those things where it's like all these black and white Native American pictures. So it's like, okay, there's a risk that this could be preachy. But again, I think it's just probably out of context. It looks that way. I think probably in context, it's gonna be kind of like him doing the Goodfellas thing.
I feel like my one fear is that it might be a little too like thematically similar to The Revenant.
I mean, he wasn't really involved in that at all, so I don't think that's gonna.
No, but I'm saying with Leo.
Oh, but still, I mean, again, DiCaprio, it's Scorsese. DiCaprio's like working under Scorsese. It's gonna be a little different.
I know. I'm just saying, like, it's a very similar role for Leo. Like, because I don't know if you've seen The Revenant, but like the Native American element is a very important part of that character. Yeah. Like his wife is Native American. His son is, obviously half Native American. So, anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's a different story. Like, this isn't a survival story by any means, but I'm saying thematically it seems like it might be a little similar.
Okay. All right, that brings us to...
All right, 2023, May 2023 movies. Okay, Guardians, Volume 3. I mean, we've sung its praises. It's up there with the best. It might honestly be my favorite MCU movie at this point.
Come on, that's a little. Come on.
I swear to God, it works that well for me. It really does. It's just a perfect trilogy capper. I feel like every single character gets a moment to shine. Most of the characters get like really full, well-developed arcs. Sure, there's a few things that are a little bit wonky, like Adam Warlock, but I think by far it's got the best villain out of the Guardians movies, and probably a top 5 villain in the entire MCU. The stuff with Rocket is just like Don Bluth levels of tragic. I don't know. I fucking love it. You know how much I love it? I am very much considering getting a Rocket tattoo on the shoulder opposite my Stitch tattoo. That's how much this movie speaks to me.
Yeah. Yes, of course, Guardians 1 through highly anticipated. It's definitely a win the MCU desperately needed right now. Just a great capper to the trilogy. We've been building up Rocket for the Guardians movies in total have always been about kind of loss, trauma, and loss. And I think this film very much bookends. Not that we didn't have it in two, but I think bookends the first movie very well in that regard. And they round out Star-Lord's story extremely well. The High Evolutionary, he's great, as we kind of hyped up. Yep. Just so cruel. Without thinking, he's cruel at all. That's the thing. It's the only issue I have with Guardians 3, which for me does that makes it by a very thin margin, not as good as the other two, is that James Gunn's story weakness of connective tissue between sequences really shows in this movie. We have these great set pieces and these great story points, but the way in which we connect them together is kind of the weak point of storytelling. Like Adam Warlock,
it's a little bit wonky with how they all end up on the ship, and then and then they have to rescue certain people from the ship.
That's what I'm saying. It's a quibble.
I feel you.
It's a quibble, but it's like it's more on display here than it was in the other two. Because the other two, again, the first movie had help. Second movie is all him, but it's a very it's kind of more direct story. And, here, plus we have things that we have like the unfinished business effect of like, okay, so we have more characters. So we have Kraglin and Cosmo now on the team, and we got to do stuff with them, but not a lot of stuff with them. And as you said, Adam Warlock, the dilemma there being like, we build this guy up and all the stories that everyone's expecting this guy to be in, we can't put him in. So we just have him for Guardians 3, and it's kind of ambiguous. Like he attacks Rocket. Why? Well, he's not really supposed to attack, right? He's supposed to kidnap, and he just does a terrible job at it. It's like, okay, that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
I feel like Adam Warlock, if they actually would have done what everyone wanted and basically made Thor 4 as Guardians of the Galaxy, Adam Warlock would have been a perfect place to really introduce him and flesh him out, I think.
I mean, it would have been interesting. It definitely kind of
especially you could draw parallels between him and Thor because they're both kind of godlike,
Sure.
I don't know.
Right.
Okay, Would you like to know my honest to God thoughts on The Little Mermaid?
No, but just do it anyway.
It's not a great movie by any stretch, but I do think it is probably, with the exception of maybe the Kenneth Branagh Cinderella, which I have to rewatch, probably the best of the live-action Disney remakes, or at least this, this recent cycle hellscape that started with Alice in Wonderland. There are definitely not great elements. Actually, like David Diggs as Sebastian, which to me should have been a home run. He's actually like the weakest casting in the whole movie for me. And I kind of just wish that he would have just used his regular voice and not done the Jamaican accent. I don't know. I just feel like the Jamaican accent, like, I feel like he kind of slips into Lafayette sometimes when he's doing the Jamaican accent, and it's kind of awkward. And what everyone's been saying about how poorly lit some of the underwater stuff is absolutely legitimate. I mean, I don't know why these live action Disney remakes just can't hire good lighting people, but it's definitely an issue. The thing that this movie actually really improves on, Dragon, is Prince Eric. Prince Eric is so freaking good in this movie. He has a really compelling backstory. He's a lot more kind of central to the plot. The backstory with him, really quick, is that he actually lives in a Caribbean island kingdom, and he was basically rescued from a shipwreck when he was a small child and adopted by the king and queen. So because of that, he's like the one white kid in, a Caribbean village, essentially. And I feel like making him sort of have that difference with Ariel, it kind of like shows off that they're both kind of like minorities in their own way. I'm not saying Ariel is a minority because she's black. I'm saying because she's a mermaid. She's a mermaid. I just that small change in Eric's character and backstory went a long way. Halle Bailey, man, this poor girl went through so much shit. And Dragon, she's wonderful. I mean, I don't know. Like, I've seen people still be mean about it even after the movies come out. I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. I think she did so much in her performance. Her singing voice is incredible. Her expressions are great, especially when it's the silent parts where she can't talk. I will say some problems with this movie, like Awkwafina Scuttle, I don't know. What the hell is Awkwafina doing? I just don't. It's a very weird performance. But overall, I did enjoy it. Let's see. Claude is saying he loved it. Oh, Claude, yeah, we probably should have covered the Mutant Mayhem trailer. That's my bad.
Look, it's
always kind of a little bit ambiguous when it's a second trailer that comes out,
Well, I mean, I was still impressed with like the teaser we got, so I'm still sold on it. Just I don't know if I'm gonna try and see it. Honestly, I'm gonna try and see it in theaters, but I can't make a promise to see it the other movie animated in similar animation style that I did see.
Subtle.
Yeah.
Let's see. Z&K says, I'm going to say it. This is best live action remake since Jungle Book 2016. Are there issues? Of course, but nothing to the insane degree of the other Renaissance's Big Four remakes. I'm not just saying that because I have a huge personal connection to The Little Mermaid. It's because of my favorite Disney movie of all time and everything. Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, this one goes a step above the Jungle Book, just because as much as the Jungle Book works in some areas, I do think it's got some pretty awkward pacing issues to it. This movie actually, like, believe it or not, for me, in spite of being 2.5 hours almost, I do think it was paced really well. Like, it actually felt like an extravagant live-action movie musical for the most part. Like, you could tell that it was done by the guy who directed Chicago. So, yeah, I surprisingly enjoyed it. It's not a great movie. By no means is it going to end up in my top 20 of the year or anything. But for what it's worth, and I hate to even say that it's a good movie, considering I definitely don't want any more of these live-action remakes. But I thought it was definitely a winner when it
comes to that horrible genre.
I mean, look, I got no skin in the game for Little Mermaid because, as I said, I'm down for Little Mermaid in terms of the boon that it was to the animation industry, and like how great the animation is in that movie. Like, for me, Little Mermaid boils down to the whole Part of Your World sequence, which honestly, that's the only scene I want to see from this movie. Just that one. I want to see how that stacks up.
Sure.
And I mean, the Eric stuff sounds good. The interesting thing with all these remakes is that's the big area. They're like the only thing to revisit any of these remakes is let's jazz up the Prince characters so they actually stand out.
Well, honestly, that's the thing. It's like I have to rewatch the Cinderella one because I know they did a lot with him.
Yeah, they did.
But I think the backstory that they gave Eric like just fundamentally shifts the dynamic with him and Ariel in a really interesting way. So
I mean, yeah, that sounds interesting for sure. And then again, I mean, you're saying that's a little like 2.5 hours to tell this story. I mean, come on. Come on, man.
You're not entirely wrong. Wrong.
You can't say that's a good quality for this. Like we keep extending.
Look, I'm saying that it has that epic kind of quality to it. I don't know. For me, it didn't feel that long. But
all right, maybe. Regardless.
Okay. Really quick, Claude Coringa says if we get a live action Princess and the Frog, I want Leslie Odom Jr. to be cast as Facilier. I hope to God if they do a live-action Princess and the Frog, they actually even do Facilier, because I know that they're leaving him out of the ride for cultural sensitivity issues.
Get out of here. Really? They're leaving
Yeah, Facilier? I swear to God, yeah.
How do they leave Facilier out of the ride?
I don't. Told me this Dragon, don't get me started. Can we just not?
Okay, well, look, real quick.
Rabbit hole.
I'm just gonna make one point, okay, because I feel it's important to just represent one side of this here, just to get it in there, just to acknowledge it, okay? Because I think everyone gets swept up in the mire and the controversy and everything. They always forget, like, with the Little Mermaid casting thing, all I'm gonna say is that I can understand that it's a weird territory to be in, where obviously people are very wrong-minded for just jumping down the throat of the actress and everything for being the way she is and just being cast and playing the role and everything. That's all wrong. But there's this weird thing in casting, especially when we do the live-action remakes period of verisimilitude. Verisimilitude is like what Richard Donner used in his casting philosophy, in terms of like, if you're going to adapt the Superman comic, you want to make them look like those characters. So I understand the initial hesitation of when we cast someone who looks different than the source material that you are pulling from, especially when you're going for like something iconic like a Disney animated thing. I get that. That said, there is an adjustment period that people aren't, they're not accepting that. They're not like looking at it, they're not giving it a chance to breathe, they're not like seeing it. But it's
I feel like the situation with Astrid is a perfect example of that.
Well, sure, but it's also this thing too of like, I feel it's also wrong-minded to just say like, hey, to be completely on one side of it, just saying this is absolutely wrong to even question this at all. Where it's like, because it's going to be obvious. Like if you ask a kid, like, "Hey, what's different between these two things?" It's like it just say, "No, there's nothing different between these two things." Well, no, there's something different about these two things, but it's okay. That's what we should be saying, but we're not. And that's what bothers me every time we eat the Little Mermaid.
And like I said, like within the context of the story, like the movie does take place within the Caribbean, so it just makes sense that she's black.
Well, this is what I'm talking about. It feels like that's getting lost in all these debates that we're having.
Right.
Anything like, okay, if we're gonna do that, then it maybe should make sense. Okay, so if the Little Mermaid, there's the Caribbean basis.
Although I will say that it is very funny that King Triton has 7 daughters of 7 different races, and it's like, the only implication that one can draw to is, damn, that guy gets around.
No, exactly. The 7 Seas.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the idea, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure. So it's still, I don't know, it just feels like it's something that we never really clarify in these sorts of things. I haven't seen the movie.
I'll also pull another kind of like industry. Like, this is a different industry, but I feel like it's a very good example of like where on Broadway, you race bend, you gender bend all the damn time. Nobody cares. And Broadway's a lot more intimate. You're actually in the same room with those people. So why the fuck should it be any different for this?
I think the difference is like Broadway, like it's a temporary role. Like people aren't going to be. It's not the thing. It's going to be like emblazoned on Blu-rays and DVDs and film strips and all that. It's just going to be, it's going to be the Broadway show. It's almost like anyone can do this sort of thing. It's kind of like the fun of like every show is going to be different. It's going to be a little different versus this is like the one.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Let's get out of this territory though.
Okay, I'm just saying it's nice that I think we should talk about these things versus just like just kind
of. No, I
agree
we should, but I just don't want to. I just don't want to.
No, sure, yeah,
into a political conversation.
Sure.
Okay, so tell me about your next movie.
Okay, the next movie is still a Michael J. Fox story. So yeah, this is the Michael J. Fox documentary that was put on Apple TV Plus. I gotta tell you, man, this thing was so well done. Apple TV Plus, they've only made 2 documentaries so far: the Sidney Poitier one and this, and they both have been really good. But this one especially, this was even better. It's this documentary. I can't recommend this any highly to you because so far we're still kind of early. I don't know if early is the right. We're vaguely early into the documentary year so far. Either that or we haven't had too many standouts, and this I think is the big standout so far this year. This is we're checking in with Michael J. Fox over 30 years after his diagnosis and with Parkinson's, and basically the thing was when he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. They get into this in the thing. He's warned that, when he gets to a certain age, like, when he's circling 60, that's when it's really going to take effect. Because he was a young man when he got that diagnosis. So we're seeing it now, and he's in rough shape, kids. It's in rough shape, and it shows, and they're not shying away from any of it. They're just showing it. They're showing him as he is. They're showing him what's happening there. So, it's we go through his life story, but here's where things get really impressive. This is what really is the big kind of eye catcher of the movie. We perfectly spliced together the kind of the recreated kind of like stuff for the movie. Like he's narrating a story, and we're seeing kind of like a fill-in for Michael J. Fox, but we're never seeing the front of the guy's face really. Either that, or if we see it, it's a guy who looks identical to him. If we are. And we blend it with actual footage of Michael J. Fox, so it's like edited flawlessly. So it's really personal the way it's going on there. Plus, they kind of get into it that him recording narration for this movie, and I guess also his audiobook. So they're probably pulling a little bit from either or. You get to see the difficulties he has just recording that because he can't stand still in front of the mic. As he's recording.
Did you ever see Top Gun Maverick?
No.
Okay, Val Kilmer literally has one line in that movie, like a single line, and it's like my favorite moment in that movie because you can tell how hard it was for him to get out that one line given his situation.
And that's the thing too, like they kind of cover there's this moment with the narration bit where you kind of break and you show him the recording narration. It's difficult for him already, and he's talking about the death of his father.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of the emotion on top of that. So it's a really good. The movie's just very raw in the right ways. I mean, I'm not going to say it's like super.
I feel like I'd have to be in a certain headspace to really not be shaken by it a little bit.
Well, very poor choice of words, Tiki, but yes, it's not.
You're right. That is a poor choice of words. I'm sorry.
But it's not like dark and edgy or like really morose. It's just kind of like it's real.
Well, it kind of reminds me of that Ebert movie, Life Itself.
Yeah, there you go. It's all Life Itself. Yeah.
And that's another movie where I have to be in the right headspace for. So,
and the good news
it's certainly inspirational, but at the same time, it's very warts and all inspirational. You know what I mean?
True. I mean, spoiler alert: he doesn't die at the end, so that's one bit of good news.
Okay,
as you probably guessed. But I don't know. Again, I hype this a moment up to you. Like there is the reveal of the Parkinsons is beautifully told. It's brilliantly told. The way they do it, like the way it's just kind of like is first revealed. It's very subtle, but it's very impactful. It's like. And I love, and basically it's everything in the story is kind of relating to the title. It's still in terms of like as a kid he could never stay still, and of course the irony bounding upon that and the way they tell it. Story. Anyway, so the point is Apple TV, they're doing an excellent job with their documentary. So this was so far has been a highlight of the year in terms of docs. It's good.
All right. Okay, next up, are we there? Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. Dragon, I went in, like, I literally was goofing on this movie in our intro to the Guardians spoiler cast.
And I went in with no expectations at all. It was literally just a movie that my grandma wanted to see. Dragon, I gotta tell you, like, it's not like it didn't, like, I don't love it in the same way that I love Guardians Volume 3, but it's a pretty great little movie. It's, I mean, obviously, like, given the subject matter, the source material, this is a movie that very much has Scholastic Book Fair written all over it.
Well, literally, yeah.
It's very much got that vibe. It's very much got that vibe. I want to highlight 3 performances that I genuinely, all 3 of them, I think are Oscar worthy in their own way this early in the year. Rachel McAdams is the mother, just freaking wonderful. Like, probably the best Rachel McAdams has always been an actress where it's like, I've always liked her and stuff. Like, I've never disliked her, but she's also never blown me away. And this, I think, is the first time she's really blown me away. My boy, Benny Safdie, is the father. He's fucking delightful. And I gotta tell you, man, I am looking forward to following his acting career, because I think he's making some really interesting choices when it comes to acting. And then lastly, Dragon, Kathy Bates is the grandmother. She's sensational. And it's so good to see that after that terrible, terrible disjointed show. She is so good. And so, yeah, all the performances in this movie are so spot on. The movie's just got a really great kind of warm-hearted quality to it. And honestly, the religious element is not preachy at all. And it's honestly a pretty anti-religion movie if you actually break down what the movie's about. Because I don't know how familiar you are with the original book, Dragon, but essentially the premise is that Margaret's parents are Jewish, or I'm sorry, her father is Jewish, and her mother comes from a very devout Christian family who basically disowned the mother for marrying a Jewish man, and so she, she is not on speaking terms with her parents, and the movie's kind of like exploring that conflict, and it does so in some really mature ways. And let's just say it made me want to look more into Judy Blume. And oh, look, there's a documentary that we'll be talking about in Catch Up this month. But yeah, man, this was definitely a highlight for me. I mean, I like one of those great kind of movie going experiences where you walk in not even expecting to really enjoy it and end up really, really liking the movie. Those kind of experiences are in some ways just as gratifying for me as something like Guardians 3, where you're really looking forward to it and it pays off. I don't know. It's just, it was just so nice, just like this was not on my radar whatsoever, but I got to tell you, man, it's a contender for my top 20. It really is. Like I said, it's not my number 1 of the year. Guardians is definitely my number 1 of the year so far. But it's a contender for my top 20 at the end of the year. It's really going to be in that conversation. So, at the very least, it'll probably be an honorable mention. All right. Okay.
All right. Okay, so let me tell you about Being Mary Tyler Moore.
All right.
Yeah, this is I heard about this early in the month, and it ended up on HBO. This was, or I guess Max, or whatever we're calling it now. Ridiculous branding, but whatever.
You know what's extra stupid is that they literally switched the branding on that the week of the Succession and Barry finales.
I know, right? Yeah. Anyway, so this is about Mary Tyler Moore, who, again, in retrospect, this is it's the heart of it. Mary Tyler Moore, second to Lucille Ball, possibly one of the most influential female, television characters.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
That's the thing, because, I mean, she's got 2 iconic shows, and the second of which, Mary Tyler Moore, this was a game changer for how women were represented on television. You know, and even going to the first one. I mean, you know, she was like the first wife in pants. You know, for the Dick Van Dyke Show. You know, that's what I'm saying. Like she was breaking a lot of ground there. I mean, kind of visually, and that she was a wife unlike any other. Like there's a great moment in the documentary to get to is that Mary Tyler Moore, when she was on the Dick Van Dyke Show, she would women would come up to her all the time and say, "Oh, my husband loves you," and they would not be threatened by her. They'd be like a friend, like, "Oh, my husband loves you." You know, it's delightful. That's what I'm saying. She was the original independent woman, strong independent woman. So yeah, we learned that she incurred a lot of loss and tragedy in life, which is sad. I mean, one thing with her son in particular is just awful. And yeah, it really sinks. And I got to watching the documentary, it really sinks in. I always knew this, but like it really there's like a ghostly kind of effect when you watch this. Is that all the Mary Tyler Moore cast? They're all gone. They're extinct. You know, it's trippy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think like there's like a little girl who like in the original season, I think she's I'm assuming, I don't think she's really anything. I think assuming she's like the only survivor, if she's even around. Even then, I don't know. But that's what I'm saying. Like everyone else, though. Yeah, it's but yeah. So this is a great deep dive on Mary Tyler Moore. If you ever want to learn more about her and just kind of see her in action, at least get a good deep dive on like they had some footage that was never before seen of the original terrible pilot for Mary Tyler Moore that they had, like the one that wasn't funny, just to show you like the frustration of like it wasn't working, and then they kind of adjusted it and it turned a lot better. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's so yeah, this was another. Again, honestly, this was a big documentary month for me in terms of the main movies, as you can probably tell, because some of us can't go to the movies willy nilly.
Right.
Okay. Speaking of which, what's yours?
Speaking of going to the movies willy nilly, just for the fuck of it.
Yeah.
Fast X. Yeah, Dragon. I watched the original 2 Fast and the Furious movies way back in the day when I was like 12 years old.
Yeah.
I've not watched a single Fast and the Furious movie since then. But I do have a little bit of investment in the franchise just because of the Universal Studios rides. And they are not good rides, but they are very much like so bad they're good, campy masterpieces of theme park entertainment. And so I got to admit, when I saw the trailers for Fast X, Jason Momoa sold me on watching it. And I was kind of going into this movie with the same mindset that you and I had with doing Once Upon a Time Frozen Over, where it's like, okay, let's jump into this long-running franchise and just see how much of it I can actually follow. And I'm literally just here for Momoa. Like, Momoa was the reason I bought a ticket. And I gotta say, Dragon, on that level, the movie was pretty much exactly what I was hoping for. On a plot level, it is fucking baffling. It makes no sense. I mean, I knew John Cena was like part of this franchise, but him being Vin Diesel's biological brother, I'm like, what? I don't know. There's so many weird character connections. There's like 2 different characters in canon who have faked their own deaths and come back from the dead. Charlize Theron is in there as like a big bad corporate lady who I'm assuming was a villain from a previous movie. Apparently, there's a Mr. Nobody character who's a really big fan favorite, but I don't know who he is. And Brie Larson plays his biological daughter.
Yeah, to be fair, I know there's a lot of AI fear in Hollywood right now, but I would love if someone made the argument that all the Fast and Furious movies probably after the first 2, or at least the first one, were AI created.
I've honestly heard that Fast 5 through 7 is like the sweet spot. That's what I've heard.
Get out of here. 5 through 7.
I swear to God, that's what I've heard.
I don't buy that at all.
But Jason Momoa, Dragon, I'm going to say this much. When the movie gets spread around YouTube and there's like a clip compilation of Jason Momoa's best moments in this movie, you got to watch it because he is absolutely on fire. Like, he is having so much fun. His performance is so fucking unhinged. I mean, there's moments where he's just straight up ripping off the Joker, but he's having such a fun time with it.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of that.
I don't know. Every time he was on screen, I was just in heaven. I was in heaven just because it was so campy and so fun. It just absolutely scratched that so bad it's good itch. But it's a genuinely good performance. It's just a performance that's in that kind of campy, so bad it's good kind of range. But the rest of the movie, Dragon, I mean, there's some action sequences that are okay, like the initial action scene in Rome with the big bomb that's going down the street. Totally, like, obviously the physics of that are way out the window, but it was a fun set piece. It kind of reminded me of something out of the Gore Verbinski Pirates of the Caribbean movies, kind of like had sort of a Rube Goldberg machine quality to it. But as the movie went on, the stunts just kind of became more and more CG, and by the end of it, I was a little glazed over. The movie ends on a fucking ridiculous cliffhanger.
Are they actually dangling over a cliff?
Actually, yes.
Well, that just figures.
A dam, to be more specific. But yeah, I don't even know if I'm gonna watch that next movie unless I hear really good things unless I hear like, yeah, Momoa's basically like the main character in this next one. It's like his Infinity War. But for what it's worth, it was a fun night out at the movies, I guess. I don't know. All right, anyways, Anna Nicole Smith. You don't know me.
Yeah, so Anna Nicole Smith has always been kind of this, at least back in the day, like, ever since Anna Nicole Smith died, she was always this interesting figure in how she relates to fame and media and all that. Because I remember after she passed, you had all those, like, especially E! True Hollywood Story, kind of like documentaries, so, like, little specials on, like, Anna Nicole Smith, the Anna Nicole Smith Diaries, or, this and that. So I just kind of happened upon this.
I'm old enough to remember the actual Anna Nicole Smith show.
Yeah, that too. That's what I'm saying. We remember, Anna Nicole Smith. She was around. She was out there at that time. We always, we had all like the, she was saturating the media for one reason or for another, mostly infamy between the Anna Nicole Smith show and, of course, the J. Howard Marshall of it all, which essentially is the reason she stuck around, because they like one of the, I forget if he was like one of the richest men or if like he couldn't be he was one of the richest guys around, at least for the time. J. Howard Marshall. So that's what I'm saying. It was like, you look at it, she was like the original, if not one of the most published or publicized gold diggers out there. Like, gold digger next to with a picture of her next to it. There was always the parallels of Marilyn Monroe to her, because the idea she had kind of a vaguely Marilyn Monroe look. She had like the beauty mark thing going on. I think she liked her, and then the idea, it's like Marilyn Monroe were kind of like, I guess, bustier or kind of like more like homegrown or something, or had a giant chemically engineered fake breast. Anna Nicole Smith. So because of this, we've always had this like certain thing. When she passed, if you notice, we did this thing where we kind of like, we looked at her like, oh, poor baby, she was too good for this world, sort of thing. And what's really refreshing and kind of interesting, I don't know if I just read it in a really wrong way, or if this is how it's intended to be. I like to think it's how it's intended to be, given kind of like, the text at the end of the documentary. Because, it's kind of like the biopic text at the end of the thing. They have like text at the end of the documentary. It's real sobering, and you kind of hit this realization towards the third act of this documentary that, okay, we're not putting her on a pedestal this time like we usually do. And this is really refreshing. When you look at this thing, it's like, yeah, she did a lot of bad things to people. She was not a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she did some bad things. Like, that really hurt her family, intentionally or no. I mean, that thing, she wasn't like a bad person, but she did selfish things.
So I think selfish is probably the word. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So I really like that we just kind of called out, like, yeah, she was really selfish. Like, she said horrible things about her mother that weren't true. Her lifestyle essentially got her son killed, which is very sad.
I remember when that happened.
Like, her, like, they get this, and actually her, I already knew there's a little bit of this, like, with the whole it was in the media and everything, the whole like, who's the daughter's real father and everything. It's the fact to think about from that poor girl's perspective. Like, she didn't know her father because of all that, and there's a question like, hey, maybe you're entitled to a whole bunch of money. Well,
in some crazy ways, there's a lot of parallels to her story and Succession.
Little bit.
Okay. Now that I'm thinking about it.
So basically, this is kind of a nice little kind of like reflection on all that stuff that we knew her for, but looked through it with a different context. We recontextualized how we look at her in kind of a more honest way. So it's a nice subversion on how we usually approach this story,
Mm.
I went into this thinking like, okay, we'll cycle through the usual Anna Nicole Smith stuff. There was one clip I really loved that was like something I've always wanted to, this one really, I really love this part where they showed her turning down the mask.
Oh, God.
See, I always heard about this. I heard about like she was originally, I think she was like the main choice. At the very least, she was the favorite choice to play Tina in The Mask, the Cameron Diaz character. Remember, Cameron Diaz's big break in the movies was her in The Mask. So you got to see her turning it down because, again, there's a greedy element to Anna Nicole Smith where she would show her body and everything for essentially for money all the time. It's like, hey, I really like the story of The Mask and I'd love to be in it. And I love Jim Carrey, but there's not enough money. I'm going to go with this other thing.
Oh, my God, dude.
And they captured it on video.
That's
I was like, oh, my God. Because I remember watching like the behind the scenes in The Mask. Like, yeah, we really went for Anna Nicole Smith for this. And then we couldn't get her. So we went to Cameron Diaz. Like, well, how about that? Because she does have kind of that look vaguely to what they were going for. And I'm like, oh, God, the circle is now complete. All right.
Okay, finally, Blackberry. Dragon, I've got a very simple elevator pitch to you about this movie.
All right.
I want you to picture the founder.
Yeah.
But instead of Ray Kroc actively screwing over the McDonald's brothers, he's genuinely making an honest-to-goodness effort to try and work with them and grow the business. He just really fucking sucks at it. That's this movie. And I got to tell you, it's pretty delightful. I feel like this movie, like, I don't think it's as good as Steve Jobs or The Social Network, but I do think it's almost kind of like low-key a parody of those two movies. It's got a very Steve Jobs structure to it, where it's not taking place over like just press conferences and stuff, but each like it does have three very distinct acts to it that all take place in different distinct points in time with the BlackBerry's history, where it's the initial idea and concept and pitch, and then it fast forwards to, basically like the peak of the success of the BlackBerry. And then the last act is like basically like the iPhone. And Dragon, you see a lot of Steve Jobs in this movie. Like Steve Jobs is kind of like, like the villain in the background, kind of waiting to take over everything. I mean, it's all just the brief footage you do get is obviously just archival, but like I love how Steve Jobs is kind of just framed as, kind of like this ever looming big bad that's shut down this company. And the movie's just, I don't know, it's a lot of fun. Again, it's not quite as monumental as Steve Jobs or The Social Network, which I think are two of the absolute best movies of the past decade. So, those are two big shoes to fill. I will say, though, this is easily the best Jay Baruchel performance I've ever seen. And
Baruchel's in this?
Yeah, he's the lead in it. Yeah.
Okay, so where did you watch this? Is it in theaters?
It is in theaters, but I had to go to like the little indie theater in Santa Rosa, like two towns and 2 bus rides away from me. So I had to kind of like make an effort to seek it out.
I'm definitely sold on this movie. I'd like to see it, but I'm going to wait for it to stream. But yeah.
And then Dragon, the other casting that's just wild in this movie, and I'm sure it's going to be even more wild for you because I am not familiar with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I have very baseline knowledge of this guy, but Glenn Howerton.
Yeah, Glenn. Remember, he
basically plays the Ray Kroc, and then Jay Baruchel plays kind of like the McDonald brother, essentially, like the sympathetic guy who starts up the company. But Dragon, Glenn Howerton, he is in full-on Stanley Tucci angry bald businessman mode.
Really?
And it's fucking glorious.
Oh, I heard about it. So Glenn Howerton shaved his head for this, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I heard. So on the It's Always Sunny podcast, he mentioned this. Yeah.
Dragon, I mean, it is a performance. Like, he is... But the great thing about his character, though, is that he is doing really skeevy stuff to try and get ahead, to try and help the company. But there's never a moment where he's, like, intentionally backstabbing Baruchel. Like, certainly he is the antagonist of the movie in the sense that his actions directly lead to the downfall of BlackBerry, but there's never a case where it's like intentionally just him trying to steal the company out from Baruchel. You know what I mean? Like, it's always like he has good intentions. He's just going about it in really sketchy ways that are obviously going to catch up with him. So yeah, highly recommend BlackBerry. I think you'd really enjoy it.
Well, I'd like to watch it.
All right, let's get some TV.
Let's see what's on.
So the Muppets Mayhem.
Possibly season 1. We don't know if it's going to come back.
I got to tell you, Dragon, I really hate to say this, but the more I'm thinking and sitting on this show, as much as I love everything to do with the actual Electric Mayhem in this show, like, I genuinely don't think there's any bad moments involving the actual Muppets in this show. Man, I think Lacing was a big misfire. I don't know. The more I think about this show, the more it's like all the Nora stuff. Like, Nora was just not a likable main character.
Let me ask you this. Was it specifically just the performance, or was it just the fact that we had a Nora character?
I think it was a little bit of both. Like, I've never been a big Lily Singh fan to begin with, but it's mostly the way she's written, honestly. She's kind of just written to be selfish most of the way through.
I mean, that's the thing.
I said this before on our actual podcast, but I actually really enjoyed her sister and the way that her sister was written. And I feel like, I don't know, like, I feel like if her sister would have been more of the main character and she would have been more written as kind of like, like the corporate shill that she kind of is, and almost a little bit of an antagonist. Whereas the sister is all about kind of like, using social media to kind of like let the band's personality show through. I don't know. I feel like you could have reworked it a little bit. I just think that it was just a mistake to put so much focus on her. Like, I truly feel like as good as the stuff with the band is, the band really could have carried its own show. I mean, it's like we really could have gotten a show with just the band, especially if we incorporated flashbacks and stuff. Like, the flashbacks we did get in the one episode were great, and I'm saying, like, we could have expanded that, I don't know.
That's true. The Dr. Teeth backstory was the best part of the show. That
and the Kevin Smith documentary episode. That was just a wonderful 1-2 punch of episodes.
Agreed. So, I mean, here's the thing, though. Even the Nora character, I mean, I love the idea of, like, the end of the season just being new animal, gets everyone back. Be like, Nora. So, the conceit of a Nora is good. Just someone named Nora, whatever we're going to call it. And giving the Muppets some of the bounce off of, like, again, like, kind of the human thing. But again, I'm gravitating towards your idea of, like, if it were something a little more like corporate shill-esque, for sure. Yeah, it is tricky. But let me ask you this, though. So apparently, I heard that the plan right now with the Muppets, Disney Plus, with this whole Muppet Mayhem thing, is that they're kind of playing fast and loose, and they're trying to do a Muppet, at least a testing grounds of a Muppet verse, in which they're going to try and do kind of shows based on separate Muppets and just see what kind of sticks. So the Electric Mayhem's the testing ground. So I don't know if they're going to.
Please give me a Sam Eagle political satire. That's all I want, Dragon. That's all I want.
So that's the question. Do you think, like, I guess the question is, like, depending on how this performs. Now, again, historically and sadly, Muppet stuff has not been performing at all the way we hoped it would. I mean, however, this, I feel, compared to the other stuff, has probably had the best track record of the other stuff. At least people have been talking.
I've heard people talking about this one.
So that's what I'm saying. So plus the Electric Mayhem, people love the Electric Mayhem. So I think this is a good shot, at least giving us the traction that we need to do. Whether this turned out exactly the way we wanted to or hoped it would Tiki. It's the fact that we're getting more Muppet stuff. We need to keep trying to get more Muppet stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And at very least, this is more hits than misses, at least in terms of the
I would say even with the Nora stuff, this is probably the best. Like, I'd say this is a step above Muppets Haunted Mansion.
I don't know if I go that far. It's two different.
I would go that far.
I don't know.
Haunted Mansion, I enjoyed it, but I think there were certain elements about it that weighed it down.
I think it's kind of hard to compare because it's a show versus a special.
That's true, yeah.
That's fair. Regardless, I mean, for me with Nora, the only issue I had with Nora really that was really apparent, that really hurt the season for me is that I think the Nora character is fine, but it's just a lot of first world problems. Like, I'm getting everything I want. It's like, Nora, cry me a river, man. Come on.
The show definitely had a problem with steak.
Yeah, the steak. There were a lot undercooked steaks, my friend.
I mean, by the time we got to the finale, even I felt like there really wasn't that much to, wrap up.
Yeah, like everyone was happy and separate. I mean, they didn't really
exactly.
Guys, you completely ruined.
Like, I honestly kind of feel like it would have been a more satisfying ending to just see the band go in their different directions and kind of spread their wings in their own unique ways.
I mean, do you think we should have gone as far as to say, well, that's the evolution of the Extra Mayhem band? They broke up, but not in a mean way.
I feel like they shouldn't. I feel like there should definitely be like an open door of like that they could get back together, especially because I really want that Rock and Roller Coaster retheme. But
it's never gonna happen.
Yeah, I know, and that's what makes it so frustrating.
One quick thing. It's the Bill Beretta, man. I love that he's been stepping up, and he and Brian Henson are really right now. Bill Beretta has mainly been the face of it. He's been taking charge and really getting the Muppets under his wing. It's nice. Okay,
Barry season 4.
So I guess the condensed things, because we just did like a whole episode by episode breakdown podcast on it.
Yeah.
Just masterfully done, just in every way. It's the
I mean, you know me, I love a good time jump, and this season delivered. This season delivered exactly what I wanted, baby.
So this season was all about thematically about closure, the final act of things. It's about kind of fame, and here's the thing. I think about it
legacies, tricky legacies.
There you go. Yeah. I think it's kind of nice that, like Barry from the beginning at its core has been about kind of fame, but more acceptance, fame and acceptance. And this season in closing is about infamy and what will it take for you to accept yourself? That's really what the season's about. Like, what is it going to take Barry to accept himself and to be happy? And we see that with the time jump, like what that takes. And it's kind of sad and scary what that takes to get him there. So yeah, and of course, I'm going to quote Peter Gould here. Peter Gould kind of swaps the whole like Swiss watch thing. So this season is a Swiss egg. The whole show's been kind of that. Just everything's been masterfully.
I truly feel like the show just season by season just built upon itself.
That's what I'm saying. I like that word. This is the really cool thing about the age of television. Of course, now it's being challenged. Thanks, Hollywood. But for the longest time though, we've been having a great run. I mean, shows like Kidding and Barry, man, like we're raising the bar to the Albuquerque verse levels. I love it.
For sure.
Yeah,
and I would say another show that's in good company with that. I think I'm a little bit more of an actual like hardcore fan of this show than you are, but Succession.
I didn't like it. I just
No, I know, but for me, I honestly feel like Succession is like just right on that same level as Barry. I think it's pretty perfect. I mean, here's the thing with Succession is that I don't necessarily know if it's gonna play as well on a binge as something like Better Call Saul or Barry is, because the show does have a little bit of an issue of, sometimes plot lines will be brought up and then kind of fizzle out. But I do think that thematically, the arcs for all of the characters, where they started from in episode 1 of the series to where they ended up in the final shots, is some pretty goddamn rock solid, perfect character development.
I agree with the arcs. The arcs have always been strong in Succession, especially this season. With the last season, they really paid things off well, especially the waiter thing.
Mm-hmm.
That waiter scene is just it's hard to watch in all the right ways.
Well, I love how the waiter is literally like the ghost of the whole rest of the show.
I love it. I love it. The waiter keeps coming. Think about it. Yeah, you're right. The ghost is the perfect way of putting it, because again, he is present in every season.
You know what? Colin, his Logan's driver.
Yeah.
Colin was present during that whole ordeal, so he knows about that. He's like the one person that actually knows about that for sure. That actually went down.
I want to talk about the.
And so, in the last shot of the show, when Colin is following Kendall, probably to make sure he doesn't fucking throw himself into the river.
Well, I was gonna dance around just saying that, but there was a take where they actually shot like the lead up to that, right?
I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I love how Colin is literally right there at the end of the show with Kendall as just like the reminder to him, like that action is never going to go away.
Just that boardroom scene is just so disastrous in all the right ways. Just oh my god,
it's such a wonderful fucking climax to a series, right? It's like it's all just people talking, but it's so explosive.
Yep, of course. I mean, throughout season 4 in particular, Roman coming apart literally by the seams when we have that scene with Kendall. Like Roman coming apart by the seams. It was Kieran Culkin, man. He really brought it out this season.
But then the great thing about that final episode, I mean, I honestly think I would honestly say if I'm comparing and contrasting Barry to Succession, I would say Barry overall had the stronger season just because I'm a whore for the time jumping. But I think Succession might have had one of the best series finales in TV history.
In TV history.
I genuinely mean that. I mean that with every inch of my being.
I think it's kind of dangerously kind of a jump before really.
I think it's up there. I think it's up there.
You haven't seen all the TV finales, though.
I mean, that's true, but the thing about this finale is that the first half, it's like I love the first half where it's like the siblings actually going back to their child, the meal fit for a king scene, which is just fucking wonderful. That was actually the last thing that they shot for the show, right?
And I know that he actually ate that crap.
And then the cheese.
What about the cheese?
Oh god.
Tiki, what about the dancing cheese?
Oh my god. And then also, without giving anything away, I was very satisfied with the ultimate end result of the game. You will.
About the what?
The game, if you will. Like, who actually won.
Right, I was going to say the Disgusting Brothers, but yes. Of course, Tom and Greg, they were hot.
I love how Greg basically ended up in, the exact same position that he was at the start of the show.
I love that scene. I think it's the penultimate episode.
The sticker.
Well, no, the sticker's great. That's in the last episode.
That's a great kind of, end to his arc.
No, yeah, that's great. But I just mean the scene where Tom and Greg have that fight. They just where he learns of what happened with Greg. And it's just there's such a. It's Tom and Greg. They just play off each other so well, and I'm really excited. By the way, remember, he's the actor who plays Tom is going to be in Deadpool 3. I'm looking very forward to seeing.
Right.
I'm still pulling for him to be. If Cranston's not Mr. Sinister, I'm hoping that guy gets to play Mr. Sinister.
Did you see that Eminem sketch I sent you?
Eminem sketch.
I sent you a link on.
No, I didn't. I didn't watch.
Okay, I need to watch that with you because it is just. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Okay, so the point being, Succession. Of course, we built up from the beginning. We knew Logan Roy wasn't going to be around till the end, and we get to explore the whole passing of the torch. And it was one of those things. It's kind of like the last. It's kind of not the last season of Lucifer, but one of the. I think it's technically season 5. It's kind of like a Lucifer, where essentially, let's just say, God leaves it up to the kids to figure out what to do, and so it's kind of hey, Logan Roy's the legacy's there, but he's left it to the kids to decide who's gonna run the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Goes horribly wrong.
Okay, so Dragon, you've got several shows in a row, so why don't you just start cracking it out?
Well, I think you have some in there too, don't you?
No, you have Mystery Show, Mrs. Maisel, and Lucky Hank all in a row.
Oh, all right. Sorry about that. Well, here's the Mystery Show's there because it's something that you've also seen.
Okay.
Okay, Mystery Show. You ready for it?
Sure, maybe.
Beef.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is, like I saw Beef, with Stephen Yeun and Ali Wong, which, by the way, great range on Ali Wong. I think she took like a break from stand-up to do this, and she's really stretching her acting muscles. She I didn't know she had it in her. She did a really good job with this. Yeah, so Beef pretty much lived up to the hype. I admit the only plot line I wasn't crazy about was the whole like building the church thing.
Really? I like how that paid off.
Not so much like the building part of that, but just the whole like, I don't know. It just feels like it builds to like a misdirect of like maybe he's the culprit. Well, no, I was just jealous of you making Goo Goo Eyes my girl.
I kind of like that. I kind of like that sort of tension that they had. I almost kind of wish that would have been paid off a little bit more.
That's what I'm saying though. Because of that, it's just kind of like I don't know. It's either too many. Feels like the show feels like almost like an episode too long, but I can't explain what to cut out, if that makes any sense.
I feel you.
I love our twist and how like the beef just keeps getting more and more like it keeps building upon itself from just a very minor slight to just the crazy degree that it goes. And I did not see the last episode going at all. If you told me from episode 1 where it was going to end up, I did not.
Oh my god, dude! The last episode was straight up like Barry levels of tension, bro.
Oh, for sure, yeah, it was crazy. I one of my favorite plot twists was the fact that Paul and Amy actually went for the relationship. It wasn't like a messy sort of like clarification. I just like we didn't like drag it out to a whole thing of like, no, he's no, she did this, and it's like another thing. Ooh, I'm burned up at Amy for that. But in this case, like, no, it's like Paul and Amy they actually had a relationship, and it was pretty good. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing I want to highlight. Speaking of the Barry and everything, is that. Jake Schreier, he directed half of these, and he is one of our directors from Kidding, and is also going to be doing that Thunderbolts movie coming out. So Schreier, man,
yeah, for sure.
And of course, that's one of the reasons Stephen Yeun might be in. He's in Thunderbolts, presumably because Stephen Yeun likes working with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's overall. I mean, I liked it. I really did. It was good. I liked the storytelling that kind of built upon each other and just got more and more out of hand. It was good.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Dragon. This is one of the shows that is on my list.
You gotta watch it.
As far as like when the writer's strike takes effect, it's like, okay, I've got some backlog to catch up on.
All right, so the good news is Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, this is the last season, so it's all done. You have a complete picture there. It's on Amazon. It's this again. This show from start to finish has never disappointed, man. It's always been good, and each season's very different. Again, basically each season's kind of a different point in her career. You have the beginnings in 1, 2 is basically her trying to keep it secret in 1, 2 is like she's kind of like it's kind of set during the summer. So there's also a different setting per season too. It all started at Yom Kippur, and season 2 is like set during the summer. And anyway, so then 3 is like when she actually she's blacklisted in 2. 3 is when she goes on tour. 4 is when she has to start back from 0, and she has like the ultimate setback for 4. And then 5 is like this is it for Tiki. You'd love 5. I'm going to tell you why. For a couple reasons. Biggest reason you're going to salivate for is that there are time jumps all over this sucker.
Okay, yeah, that definitely sounds.
And I don't mean just like one time jump. I mean we jump to different time periods, man. It's crazy. Almost every episode, it's like the framing device. Like almost every episode. Some episodes, there's one episode that's entirely set in a time jump.
Damn.
That's what I'm saying. It has a great. It's. I don't want to tell you what it is, but there's a really great conceit for why we're doing it. And it jumps all over time.
Oh, fuck me, dude.
So that's what I'm saying.
You know how to tell me on something.
To my knowledge, what happened was they wanted to do more seasons, but Amazon, they're hemorrhaging money because of that Rings of Power show, so they had to cut.
Oh, yes, they are. Oh boy, that's
the thing. So and Amy, like the showrunners, have been really upset about it. And they've voiced like, yeah, we don't like it. Amazon, they're all our money went into Rings of Power, so we're a period show, and because of that, we're going to be expensive for reasonable cost. So basically they found, okay, well, we're going to do all the stuff we want to do via the time jumps in this show. And that's what it worked out great. And basically the main plot is that she becomes a writer on the Gordon Ford show. The Gordon Ford show is kind of like the Johnny Carson show equivalent of Marvin's Maisel, which blends real life comedy and just like a little bit like you have to have a fill in here and there. Mm-hmm. So so she's basically working as a writer, and her goal the whole season is to be the comedian essentially that Johnny Carson would call on there to perform. That would be her big break. So that's the whole season's built around, and we're kind of like we're checking in at different points to like see how it worked out for us. We're kind of building somewhat of a mystery to how did we get to this point with her and what happens and why there's some ups and downs, and like we're kind of celebrating old Hollywood and the famous stories and stuff like that. And it's wonderful. This show is just this is just an absolutely stellar show. It's funny, and Alex Borstein again when she this is kind of like her version of like Seth MacFarlane moving on to the Orvilles. It's like her moving on to the thing and really like she got to really stretch her wings for beyond Lois on Family Guy. Mm-hmm. So just wonderful in every way. And Rachel Brosnahan, the lady who plays Mrs. Maisel, right now she's in talks. The rumor is she's liked to be Lois Lane for the Superman Legacy movie.
I could see that. I could definitely see that.
I'd love her to be Lois Lane, just based on all the wonderful stuff she did here. So that'd be great. But yeah, so I can't recommend Marvel's Lane more highly to you. Season 5 is absolutely the one you got to get to, man. This is the one made for you. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Cool. Right. Okay. Lucky Hank, season 1.
Yeah, I have no idea if this is coming back, because this feels like, especially the writer's strike feels to be the kiss of death for this one, so I highly doubt it's coming back. But even if it were...
This feels like a very kind of unfortunate, like, well, we want to use Bob for something, but we're not really sure what.
Yeah, this is very much AMC. Like, we know Bob Odenkirk and John Carlos Esposito have gotten shows for AMC, and that's basically almost like a contractual thing. They want to turn out some stuff. I forget what John Carlos' thing is, but Lucky Hank... This adapts a novel, so it makes me wonder. I don't know if we're coming back for this necessarily because it just adapts.
I mean, to be fair, with The Leftovers, season 1 was literally the entire novel, and then seasons 2, 3, and 4, which were way better. Or I'm sorry, it didn't have 4, just season 3. Seasons 2 and 3 were like way better than season 1. Were entirely original.
So with that in mind, the season ends. The reason I'm unsure is that there's an open ending at the very end, which it's set up to come back if they wanted to, and if it doesn't happen. So I don't know if AMC's. I highly doubt AMC is going to give it another season, but I'd be impressed if it did. Paul Lieberstein's the showrunner on this. Essentially, Odenkirk plays Hank Devereaux Jr. This guy's the head of the English department at Pennsylvania College, Railton College, and he's basically it's a very Larry David-esque character. So it's Bob Odenkirk playing this is Larry David-esque, very disenfranchised English professor who like calls out his students and like he basically says, guys, you're not at the best college. This is the capital of mediocrity. This college.
I will say I did watch the first episode because it was free on YouTube, I think, and I liked what I saw. I did like what I saw of it.
That's what I'm saying. The core of it, I really like. Here's the thing: I like the Tiki. I don't think a general audience would. In terms of like, I like that again. There's a little bit of Curb Your Enthusiasm,
especially because like following up a Bob Odenkirk thing on AMC, certain expectations.
Because obviously, look, I'll spoil it for you now. It's not going to be as good as Better Call Saul.
No, you just broke my heart.
Sorry to bear that bad news. But yeah, so that's the thing. So my theory is now again, I think it's just purely coincidental. But really, I'd like my headcanon is that the show is called Lucky Hank because in each episode you can make the argument that Hank, again, bad things happen to Hank, but there's always like a glimmer of luck to what happens to Hank in each episode. Like there's a bit of an upside, like some unexpected happens that is kind of lucky for him, a lucky break in some way.
Also, I'm sorry, I know it's low hanging fruit. I just need to make the observation that it's really amusing that his character is literally just another main Breaking Bad character's name.
Only he's much luckier than the other Hank.
I would hope so. That Hank was not very lucky at all.
Nope.
Throughout his run in the show.
Nope. So here's the main crux the main crux for what this character is going through. So again, he's the apathetic kind of English professor, but he has issues, his major daddy issues. He's a junior, he's Hank Devereaux Jr. So his father is returning, and his father.
I'm sorry, Dragon. Can you clarify the relationship that he has?
He has a bad relationship with his biological father.
There we go. By the way, one of the other TV shows that I know I need to catch myself up on, Peacemaker, also no biological father.
Yeah, you really do need to get caught up on Peacemaker. Especially,
I know. With James Gunn of it all,
yeah.
I know.
Plus,
it'll happen. It'll probably happen this month, honestly.
And the High Evolutionary's in it.
I know.
Okay, so point being, his father returns, and I don't want to spoil for one. There are two huge reveal episodes, and they're really good. And essentially, his father, was a distant guy, and he left he and his mother when he was a teenager. Really, he left him.
The first episode was really kind of building up the mystery of what exactly was up with the father. Yeah,
there's a big reveal of why it was so traumatizing when the father left. And so you have that. So there's the father returns as you saw hyped up, and never contacted him for years, and never gave him a reason for why he left or anything. So there's a lot of tension there, and there's two twists. One of which we reveal why he left, and the other twist is like what their interaction is when he comes back. Because they build him up for a number of episodes. The father, the father's like looming, like the mother's saying, "You should see your father." And he's like, "Oh, he doesn't want to do it, but something's gonna happen. He's gonna do it."
I have a random question. The one teacher who was in a wheelchair, I thought that was really cool diversity casting. Does she get anything cool to do?
I mean, she's in. She gets funny stuff. She gets some good lines. Like I wouldn't say she's like she's there and she's present. They bring her in, and she's pretty much in all the scenes when we have the full cast collective there. So she's kind of she's in the ensemble.
Like I said, I just appreciated that casting from a diversity point of view.
I wouldn't expect the moon from her, but yeah, it is good diversity casting. Let's see. So here's something I want to really highlight. So Diedrich Bader's in this, and he's really good in this.
I'm sorry, who is?
Diedrich Bader, the Brave and the
Bold. Okay.
Yeah, Diedrich Bader. He's they have good people in this. You got Diedrich Bader, you got Kyle MacLachlan, you got Oscar Nunez. They're all in this. But Bader is an actor who he had that sitcom, which name I'm always blanking on. The one where he played, anyway, I won't bore you with that. Point being, we don't give Diedrich Bader enough to do, and he had a really good supporting role in this because he was the friend of Odenkirk's characters. He was like the one he confided in, so he was a really well fleshed out character there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, again, the only issue I have is that again, I don't. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think General Alliance is going to dig this, man. I don't think it's going to get longevity. So it's a shame, but yeah.
All right. Okay, so Yellow Jackets season 2. Yeah, Dragon, never watch this show. It's like the gore in this show is like everything that you hate. It's like we're talking disembodied limbs and people eating body parts But this show, of course, the premise is that it's kind of like there's two storylines going on. There's a present storyline with the survivors of they were all a high school girls soccer team who were in a plane crash, got stranded in the middle of the Alaskan wilderness. So there's a present day storyline going on with them as adults, and then there's also the past storyline going on, like showing what went down in the wilderness. There's a lot of ambiguity, a lot of like J.J. Abrams kind of mystery box sort of, this is mysterious. What does it mean? And I will say I like season 1 quite a lot, and season 2 definitely has some good elements to it, some good episodes. I thought the first couple episodes were really well handled. The stuff in the present timeline with the adults, every critic has pointed this out, and I very much agree with it. It falls into that same trap that a lot of sequels and second seasons have, where it's like you have the main cast together and they have a lot of good chemistry with one another. And then for the sequel or second season, you literally spin them off into 5 different storylines, and they're each off doing their own thing, and they're not interacting with each other for a big part of the season. And that is like the main criticism, because I will say the stuff that's in the wilderness in the past is all compelling. Like that never gets boring. There's one death in particular that is just stone cold. I mean, graphically, it's not even that violent, but it's almost kind of like Walter White watching Jane die, except even more fucking dramatic. Like, it's not as dramatic as that from a sense of, like, you know, like, obviously that's like a really big touchstone TV moment. I don't think this is going to have like the legacy factor of that or the ripple effects of that in terms of the story. But just from a sheer, like, oh my God, they are literally just watching. Basically, Dragon, I know you're not going to watch the show, so I'll just spell it out for you. A kid slips and falls into the frozen water. He falls through a thing of ice. Mm-hmm. And the whole group essentially just coldly watches him die because they need to eat.
You mean Mike Coulter doesn't save him?
No.
Oh, that's sad.
But Dragon, it is disturbing because the whole time the kid is like, help me. And they're like, no, we can't save him. The wilderness is chosen. We need the food. And it's pretty fucked. It's pretty fucked. That was definitely the most memorable moment of the whole season. Also, I really like what they did with the coach character because his arc this season goes from like at first, like when the season first starts off, it really feels like he is just going to fucking kill himself at any moment. Like he has lost any and all authority he might have had with this group of girls. He is basically just another body to feed at this point. The thing with the coach also is that very early on in the show, he gets his leg broken. So that kind of is what strips his power away from him in the group dynamics. And so season 2, he goes from like basically being at death's door to he essentially tries to burn down the whole fucking cabin with all of the girls in it at the end of the season because he is just so fed up with their cannibalistic, murderous bullshit. And I love that direction with the character. And I'm genuinely like, I love how they went from like, he was like the character that the fan base was like, okay, like when the hell, like this guy is going to die any episode now. Like, people were like kind of like prematurely just predicting like, okay, when's Coach Ben going to die? Is it going to be this week? Is it going to be next week? And now, Dragon, Coach Ben is like going to be like the focal point of the next season with all the shit that went down. So I'm really satisfied with how they handled that storyline. A lot of other stuff is a little bit messy. Like, I do think that the show is leaning a little bit too hard on the whole ambiguous, like, ooh, is the wilderness supernatural or not? It's still a good time. Elijah Woods pops up as a potential love interest of the character that Christina Ricci plays. And I will say those two like have some pretty amazing chemistry. But yeah, it's I would say the second season definitely a downgrade from the first season. But there was enough interesting stuff there that I am most certainly going to keep watching. All right. Okay, Dragon, when I saw this on your list, I was like, is this literally the third Waco show that you've watched in 3 months?
Well, this is more a continuation of the one. So remember, I told you there was like the second.
I was like, I do not know how you have the mental capacity to handle all that Waco content, my friend.
Yeah. So this was this is the limited. This is kind of a continue. So this is Waco Aftermath. This is the continuation, or like it's kind of like a second part of a 2-part story, I guess, ultimately of the Michael Shannon limited series thing they did on Showtime. And it's 5 episodes. It's all about, as you guessed, it's all about the aftermath. Mainly, this is about the build to the Oklahoma City bombing. That's what this is about. The Oklahoma City bombing, for those who may not be aware, and they kind of told you about this and all the other Waco stuff, is that it inspired what led to it. It was inspired by what happened at Waco.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really good. I mean, obviously, it's not as compelling as the first season, which is the actual event itself and very focused on that. And of course, we have that in the whole documentary to kind of explain what went on there. We all know that. So this is the story you may not know, though. It's kind of interesting. This is about, it's basically bouncing roughly, I guess, 3 stories, maybe. You have the trial, which is the main story. It's the most interesting. The best part of this whole thing is the trial. You have the trial of the 5 surviving Branch Davidian people. one of which was not even there. It's an important thing to know. One of which was the guy not even there. He was just kind of rounded up. Ultimately, Giovanni Ribisi plays their lawyer, and he is so good in this. My God, Ribisi kills it as the lawyer in this. And Breaking Bad alumni, we have David Constable, Gail Bedecker. He plays the judge, who's a real piece of work. Essentially, they're on trial for all the stuff that went down in Waco. Basically, they're trying to hold someone accountable, and the only ones that survived are them. So, and basically, they're ignoring all the ATF stuff that happened. It's unfair. So that's the best part. Then you have the flashback structure, which to me is the weak sauce of the whole thing, where it's okay, but it's just basically you see young David Koresh know how he met these people and him basically starting the whole Branch Davidian thing. So that's just okay, it's young David Koresh, and we already had the interesting one with Taylor Kitsch, and this is just a younger guy playing. It's good casting, but it's I don't really need to know any of this. David Koresh isn't around. I know we're trying to still get him in the story, but it just feels like this is about the aftermath, not Koresh. Then you have the Michael Shannon. So Gary is still in this, and Gary, he's trying to stop. Essentially, he doesn't know what it is yet, but he's noticing that people are working together. Or basically I'm trying to find what the term is. Essentially, he's trying to prevent the Oklahoma City bombing, but he's uncovering the mystery that it would be revealed to be the Oklahoma City bombing. Basically a bunch of militaristic guys, a bunch of militants, the private military guys, the guys that start their own thing. They were getting together and basically planning the Oklahoma City bombing. And he was trying to uncover that, and basically kind of fate intervenes again and kind of prevents him from doing so. And it's horrible what happens ultimately. So he and Shea Wiggum. Shea Wiggum was the SWAT guy, and they have this excellent scene together in the hallway where they kind of they're forced to really confront what happened in the first season with each other. And it was kind of built up, because Shea Wiggum was he was the SWAT guy who was and they talked about this guy in the documentary. He was the SWAT guy who said he saw what happened. And, he was there and was just watching people, burn alive, and he felt horrible about it. He was the guy saying, yeah, let's go with the plan here. Yeah, tear gas it up. And he felt horrible about it, but he had to play ball with the organization. So good stuff there. There's a gobsmacking ruling in the legal case, which you would have to see to believe, Tiki. I'm saying if this didn't happen in real life, you would say it's the most phony courtroom thing you've ever seen, but it is shocking what happened to these people during this trial at the end, what the judge ruled at the end. It is the most unfair thing you've ever heard in your life. All right, so it was good.
Okay, Dragon, I missed something when I did my last list, so I'm going to slip it in here for me. Jury Duty season 1.
I knew something was supposed to be in between those two.
Yeah, have you heard about this?
No.
Okay, let me try and sell you on it, because I do think you would really enjoy it.
Well, I just talked about a trial that won me over, so go on.
So this is a reality show, kind of, but it's also sort of a social experiment. And the premise is that it's essentially a fake trial, and everyone involved is an actor, and they're all improvising, except for one guy who thinks it's all real.
Okay, so they basically Joe Schmoed him.
Essentially, yes.
You remember the Joe Schmo show, right?
I do,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Joe Schmoed him, gotcha.
But Dragon, let me tell you the element of the show that's going to get you to watch it, all right?
Yeah.
One of the jurors, and keep in mind, this is the show is in LA. It's filmed in LA. One of the jurors is none other than James Marsden.
Wait, get out of here, really?
Playing himself.
As himself?
As himself.
And he's a juror?
Yes.
Get out, really?
And the whole thing with his character is that he is an egotistical douchebag Hollywood guy. But the really interesting thing about the main character, who's, the one guy who's not in on it, is that the casting department just went out of their way to try to find the most patient guy that they possibly could. And so all the other characters are crazy eccentric, not to the point of just being straight up cartoon caricatures for the most part. There's one character I think kind of blurs that line a little bit. You'll know him when you see him. But But the James Marsden thing genuinely ends up being like the most compelling thing in the whole show, because like this guy, like he knows that James Marsden is a dick. At least he's acting like a dick, but he's a genuinely big fan of James Marsden. Like he loves James Marsden and Sex Drive. Like he's a randomly big fan of Sex Drive in particular. And so it's like he's trying to like be James Marsden's buddy, you know, like, and you can tell part of it is kind of like opportunistic, like, ooh, I'm hanging out with a celebrity. But part of it is also just him trying to be patient, you know. And it's just a really, really interesting social experiment where it's like every episode, you know, as you go through the case, like all these crazy things start to happen. There's a lot of stuff that actually goes down with the case itself. I don't want to bore you with the details. The penultimate episode, the cliffhanger of the penultimate episode is like they reveal everything to the main guy. And then so the final episode is just all sort of peeling back the curtain and his reactions and kind of the aftermath. This is on Freevee, which is like a weird streaming service that's kind of like attached to Prime Video, where it's all free except you have to watch ads. I would highly recommend it, especially if the James Marsden stuff interests you, because it's genuinely like some really, really good comedy out of that. In James Marsden, he's just like the perfect level of like famous, and he would have a little bit of an ego about him, but he's not famous enough to be like, you know, like mobbed by random groups of people in public. You know what I mean? Like it's just a perfect casting choice to have him involved. All right. Okay, so that brings us into catch up.
Well,
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. You have one last thing. I'm sorry.
Okay. Flash season 9.
Run, Barry, run.
Yep, and they say the line that too.
I bet they do.
So finally, we end the Flash again. Finally, just far too late. 4 seasons too late.
Dragon, there's a 2-hour Flash video essay. Like, what went wrong with the Flash? I believe at that point they were up to season 7, and it's kind of become like my comfort watch, falling asleep.
All right, so okay. Long story short, here, Flash season 9. It's just gotten so convoluted up to this point. It's not as. Let me this way. If you look at the last season of Arrow, which is another example of shit that went on too long. But the last season of Arrow, because they knew it was ending, they had like a shorter number of episodes. I think it was like 8 to 10 episodes, and they kept it simple. All those episodes were simple and was bringing it to a close. So even oddly enough, the Arrow, while it got terrible after the second season, progressively, like 3 was tolerable, then 4 on was like it was getting bad. Each losing a piece of itself as it went on. Last season of Arrow, though, they kept it simple. They kept it nice and simple for the ending. Kind of bought some points back since you knew it was the last one. Flash sadly did. That was my expectation for the last season of Flash, which also had a reduced number of episodes. They kind of cut it in half. Nope. No. It was yet again, Tiki, every season of The Flash, let me just tell you, every season after season 5 of The Flash has been this for me, okay? It's been, where's the Reverse Flash? Come on, Reverse Flash. Where are you? It's like a gambler at a slot machine. I'm like looking for the Reverse Flash.
Oh, God, that's sad.
Yep, that's pretty much my experience watching The Flash these days. Show me some Kavanaugh. Where's the Kavanaugh?
Mm-hmm.
So each season I'm desperate for the Reverse Flash to show up, and occasionally he will. And when he does, he's flawless. He's wonderfully done. It's like everything you could ever dream of. And here's the thing. He did show up twice in this season. And both times are great. And even better, we got both versions of it. We got the Matt Lensher one, the blonde-haired Flash, and you have the one who says, like, who's the villain now, Flash? That guy.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Kavanaugh. So they both show up, and they're both wonderful. That's the best thing I can say about this season, just period. That, and like, we brought Stephen Amell back for an episode as Green Arrow after we killed him off. So it's like, yeah, we kind of found a stupid, convoluted reason to bring him back, but hey, he was back. That's all the nice things I can say about Flash. Otherwise, it was, we had a lot of BS like finale stuff, like, hey, Killer Frost. We had the convolutedly somewhat kill her off. We want the actress to be around. So there's like another personality on her. We couldn't get Cisco back, so we literally got everyone in the show back but the one guy from the beginning.
Oh, that's really sad.
It is. It's just ridiculous. They did a Groundhog Day episode. Here's what you're not going to believe, okay? Pretty much all the CW shows, at the very least, Arrow in its last season, but better, and Legends of Tomorrow, they've done Groundhog Day episodes. They keep doing the Groundhog Day episodes.
I believe it.
So Flash, how does Flash, a show about time travel and time loops and everything, have the worst Groundhog Day episode?
God.
How does that happen? Anyway, basically, Reverse Flash was the MVP again. One excellent episode in particular, the one with Matt Ledger, in which they did this thing retroactively. They found yet another little, like on the way out, just one more way in which the Reverse Flash has this excellent reason for hating the Flash, because essentially the Flash forgave him for his trauma. Like, they go back in time, essentially they add this layer of like, hey, it's like the closest thing to acceptance for you killed my mother, but a lot of good things came out of it. And Reverse Flash this is the one that's stuck in the past, like going on the whole journey. So he has to go through the whole series again, knowing that the Flash, the experienced Flash in the future, forgave him, and he hates that so much. It's gonna add like a little layer there. So that's great. Sadly, though, this is the one thing. All the great Reverse Flash stuff that they did one critical error. One. In the very last episode, when they have Kavanaugh back, the best Reverse Flash. He goes out like a punk. He doesn't get to fight the Flash. They bring back all the bad guys and they're fighting all the members of Team Flash. And for some reason, he does not get to go up against the Flash one last time. And he gets blasted by the lamest member of the team, the one who fires beams of light, the Jubilee of the team. Man. It's like, no, that's the last time we see him. He should have killed that guy before he. Oh, come on. Oh. So that's what it is. So again, I was hoping it was going to go out maybe like a bang with the Reverse Flash. We always knew he was going to be back in the last episode, but it was a whimper. So,
All right. One second. Okay, read what I wrote in the private chat. Okay, catch up. Okay, so Renfield, I saw this like literally like 2 days after we recorded our memoirs for April, so almost got it in there for the actual month it came out, and this was very solid. I will say though, I really wish they would have. Believe it or not, Aquafina is not really the worst part of it. The worst part of it is your boy Dragon, your menace.
Oh no.
Yeah.
The Schwartz.
Yep.
He's in Renfield.
He plays the bad guy. And he's pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie.
Dracula. How is he the bad guy?
He's a mob boss, and the whole there should not be a mob plot line in Renfield. There just shouldn't be.
He was good when teamed with Animal from Muppet Mayhem. Was he bad in this movie?
I mean, he's not. I think you're gonna hate him. Okay. I'll say that.
Was he like a modern mobster? Like, was he?
Yes. And he's also like one of those like kind of like a pathetic mama's boy. Yeah, it's not great. It's not
Schwartz.
great.
I was looking forward to this movie, Schwartz. Darn you!
I will say everything with Nicholas Hoult is fantastic, and I am fucking stoked for Nicholas Hoult in the Nosferatu remake that's coming out. That is one of my most anticipated of the year, if it actually does get released this year.
Is it going to tie into this?
What?
Is it going to tie into this, or is it coincidental?
No. It's being done by the guy who did The Lighthouse.
Okay.
And obviously Nicolas Cage knocks it out of the park as Dracula. That goes without saying. Every time he's on screen, he's fucking magnetic.
You heard about what he did for this role, didn't you?
What?
He filed his teeth down.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
But then I will say, like, all the stuff with Renfield going to the support group for people in abusive relationships, that should have literally been the whole movie.
I know, right? That seemed
the whole goddamn movie.
That seemed like a good sell.
It's a great setup. I love the first act, and then I don't want to spoil shit, but like they get written out pretty quickly, and the movie kind of falls apart after that just a little bit. But I would still say this is worth seeing. It's just it's unfortunate because it's another. I feel like this is the second Nicolas Cage movie in a row in 2 years where it's like really awesome premise, really great stuff in the first act. The two lead characters have really awesome chemistry with each other. But at the end of the day, the storytelling in the third act just kind of falls apart. So, yeah. All right.
All right. Peter Pan and Wendy.
I don't know how you did it, man. I literally I couldn't last fucking 10 minutes with this thing.
Wait, so you actually watched 10 minutes of it?
I tried. I just couldn't.
Well, remember, your guy directed this too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I still couldn't.
So for the kids out there, this is the David Lowery remake of Disney remake of Peter Pan and Wendy. It's I mean, look, it's a very, very low bar. I mean, comparatively, it's not bad compared to some of the other Disney remakes. I mean, let me put it this way. An attempt was made. I can respect that an attempt was made. And you know what? They made one really good decision in this remake, which sadly seems like the best thing we can say about any of these movies.
That's true.
Okay, Jude Law's as Captain Hook is a highlight, but here's the best part of what they did with him. They added like a little layer to the backstory between Peter Pan and Captain Hook, which I thought was really good. It's the idea that Captain Hook was in Neverland with him, and he was a young man, he was a kid, and he left. And that's why he became an adult, and that basically he felt that Peter Pan banished him, and that's why he hates him. That basically he lost his best friend, and he kind of decided to become enemies. And the point being, so the fact that like they knew each other, and
I thought that's literally the plot of the fucking Hugh Jackman Pan, though.
I mean, you might be right. Did you watch?
At least I know that Hook and Pan are like friends in that one.
Okay, well, at the very least, Disney like adapting that. I don't know if that's in the original story or not, or what, or if they just.
And just for the record, Hugh Jackman does not play Hook in that movie. He plays Blackbeard or something.
I know. Okay, so you see my point. There's the idea that somehow they kind of took that. They kind of found like a way of like, if we're gonna at least try to tell the main Peter Pan stories, like acknowledge that this is why Captain Hook doesn't like Peter Pan. It's a good idea. That's like the one thing I can give it. Aside from that, and obviously we have the missed opportunity with Alan Tudyk, and we don't do the double casting. But it's conflicting because I do like what Jude Law does as Captain Hook. But
you know, Alan Tudyk would be a damn good Captain Hook.
Here's the thing.
You know, he'd be a good.
Here's the thing. Alan Tudyk would have been perfect in recreating the classic Captain Hook from the Peter Pan animated movie. That's what he would do flawlessly, and we know he would do that flawlessly because he's wonderful. Anyway, Captain Hook's always one of my favorite Disney villains too. I love that guy. So you have the Larry's done all that good stuff. The Old Man, the Gone. He did for you. You say Peach Dragon's really good, and the Green Knight and stuff like that. But sadly, it's just this movie. It's pretty forgettable aside from that Captain Hook stuff, and it's just makes me want watch this movie. Just makes me want to watch the original, which is the sad reality of all these Disney live action movies, and that's the marketing ploy. Like, hey, watch these movies, so we'll get double our money. You'll watch this movie,
I know, right?
And it'll make you want to watch the original because you got scammed in this one. That's the rub. That's the plan. It's sad. It's a sad cycle.
And there's the rub.
There's the rub.
All right. Okay, let's see. So I got a mystery movie for you. Oh God, it's not a good one though.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna have you guess.
We don't have time to guess.
It's Lucasfilm.
Howard the Duck.
Yes.
You've never watched Howard the Duck?
Believe it or not, no.
You always talk about it. I always thought you watched it.
I love the character. I love the fact that he popped up in Guardians. Like, that's still one of my favorite post-credit scenes in all of the MCU. It's just, it fits so well in the context of what that movie was trying to do. Here's the thing with this movie, Dragon. I actually think there's elements of this movie that work. I think it is very weird, very 80s. The puppetry, for the most part, is genuinely pretty good. I think the problem is just the script. Like, the script for this movie obviously sucks. And, you know, I don't know. I to be honest with you, the first scene where it's just the establishing shot of his apartment and we're kind of like establishing like the duck world and everything, that kind of got me excited. Like, I was kind of like, this actually sort of feels almost Eddie Valiant like, where it's like we're panning through and we're kind of getting an idea of this guy's life. Don't get me wrong, it's not nearly as poignant as that. But then he literally gets shot out into space very randomly, like in the first 5 minutes. And the movie's just like insane from there. I mean, I didn't really enjoy it, but I did watch this because I was kind of like, I watched it sort of like when I was a little bit stressed out and I was just looking for something to laugh at. And it did its job there. But I got to admit, part of me was sort of hoping that there would be more of like, you know what, in spite of the weirdness and the wonkiness, I was kind of hoping there'd be like some Super Mario Brothers live action upside of like, there is some cool world building here. And there is in like small little bursts, but overall it's kind of a mess. I'm not going to lie.
Well, you're not wrong. All right. Okay, my mystery movie. Air.
I would have bet money that Air would have been one of your mystery movies.
Yeah, I was delighted to see they put this up for Mother's Day. And it was a good idea to put up for Mother's Day. Yeah, so this, of course, you know.
Although it's way more of a father. Well, no, it is a Father's Day movie, but the mother is very pivotal.
Yeah. I'd say more Mother's Day because I mean, don't worry, his father's there.
I mean, I feel like it's a movie that you would watch with the dad, but thematically, it's a Mother's Day movie.
Yeah. So yeah, this of course nice little kind of captures the best way I can describe this movie. It's kind of a mundane version of Argo, but a mundane in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in terms of just like the stakes over this.
No, that's the thing. I really did appreciate. Like, fundamentally, there really should not be any stakes in this story at all.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, I love the fact that we have kind of our mundane stakes in terms of it's the rich getting it's a 1%er problem for sure. You know, it's like we need better shoes. You know, so but seriously, I do love the symbolism of the shoes and everything we're going for here because you gotta remember the shoe. It's the shoe that changed the world. You know, Jordans are huge. Jordans are still huge. You know, Jordans now they're retro, but still they're huge. It's the idea. You know, this was Michael Jordan. You know, this was his. Again, this is really like like second to everything he did. This shoe is kind of what gave him his immortality. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I love the '90s kind of marketing, like setting of everything that we're doing here. All that's great. I love Damon and Affleck. Just the back and forth they have. It feels like these guys are like the executives are like kids, practically just running the place. You know.
Well, I mean, obviously, you get that built-in chemistry. They've literally been friends since they were practically kids.
I know, that's what I mean. I like that there's like a childishness about their friendship, how we portray it here, which of course is coming very naturally from them, so it fits. And I don't think it's been a while since they've been in a movie together, so it's pretty nice to see them like this. Yeah, I mean, I love that. I
really enjoyed Bateman in this.
I mean, he is good in this as well. Yeah, he's solid. I mean, I love Viola Davis. She of course she was the main cell for this. Like Michael Jordan is kind of signing off on that, signing off the whole movie just to get her there. Yeah, it's so odd that Michael Jordan he's playing second fiddle to the shoe in this movie. It's I initially in the trailer, I was the big thing. It's like, oh, who they get to play Michael Jordan? It's like, well, he doesn't really matter apparently. Well, I was really unsure how I was going to feel about that, but ultimately, I think we played it right.
I think it was really smart. I think it was a really smart move. I think anyone they would have actually cast would have just been distracting.
Exactly. So the third act of this movie is my favorite part. I love the third act, and I love how we build up the whole. I mean, admittedly, 2 is kind of like 2 is a bit of a lull, but 2 does feed into the build-up in which it's like, hey, Damon laid out exactly what's going to happen here. Sonny laid out exactly to the mother, like exactly how these other meetings are going to go. So kind of seeing like the fortune kind of come true there. But then we get to the third act in which we have him just throwing the script out the window and going for broke with Michael Jordan and him laying out his legacy. And we see that I love how effective that moment was. We showed his father, the death of his father, like briefly when we kind of cut to his father. I love that what we did there.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, again, everything we see with Michael Jordan. I wish there was a clip of Space Jam. I don't know if I missed it. I don't think it was there.
I just don't think it's the right time period. Space Jam's like more far along in his career.
Well, remember they jumped ahead during that scene when he's making the sales pitch, all the legacy stuff. So I'm saying if they could have put it in there because his father dies like way later into his career too. So
That's true. That's true.
Anyway, so the point being, Air I thought Air was good. And yeah, I gotta tell you, watching this, it does make me want to go back to the Last Dance docuseries.
No, I agree. I agree.
Yep.
That's kind of something I have filed away again for my like writer's strike, binge
How feel good is the is that biopic text at the end of this though? It's the whole and because of what his mother did, he made a boatload of money.
Well, I think more importantly, it's the fact that she was, vouching for all athletes.
I know. I'm just streamlining it. But yes, it's the fact that all this good stuff happened. There was a nice. That's the thing. It's a feel good ending for everyone, but also Jordan made a lot of money.
All right. Next up, speaking of people who have made a lot of money, Judy Blume Forever. Yeah. Forever. This is a really damn good documentary.
I told you.
Oh, you've seen it?
Yeah, we talked.
I'm sorry.
Why do you think you watched it in the first place?
I watched it because of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Well, remember, I told you about this documentary. You scoffed at it, and then
So this definitely has some "Won't You Be My Neighbor" upside to it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does.
Like I feel like it's a good kind of complementary piece to that. I won't dwell very much on this. It's a pretty simple documentary, but I love the obviously the people who have been writing to her pretty much their whole lives. That's a very poignant story. I love her fights against censorship. I probably, given the demographics, I probably wouldn't actually go back and read any of her books, but I do think that it was very interesting the way that like throughout her career, she was very much just kind of like every book was almost kind of like a new challenge for her to break through some sort of cultural taboo. Like very much kind of like a Mr. Rogers-esque figure where it's like the sweetest lady, the most heartfelt, like heart of gold person ever, just such a lovable person, but a true maverick at the same time.
Yep.
All right.
Mystery movie number dos. Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves.
All right. I know you're not a fantasy guy, so I'm not sure how you're going to like this, but...
Yeah, so that's the thing. I'm like someone who knows the barest minimum about Dungeons and Dragons going into this. So it was. I thought this was a solid movie. I just think it's long in the tooth in Act 2. It drags a little. I kind of phased out of it in Act 2.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, again, Chris Pine, he's wonderful. He's bringing the pathos, trying to save the daughter and everything. Chris McKay, he wrote this, so there's a lot of Lego Batman movie kind of comedy in there, which I thought really worked. I love the opening gag in which how they escape, with the guy, they're waiting for the guy with the wings to show up. Like that's great.
Right.
I like how they seal that up at the end. So again, yeah, it's just the father trying to save his daughter, and we have Michelle Rodriguez as support there, and she's good. Jeff, good cast. We have some fun magic in here too. I like Ultimate is more of a heist movie than a quest movie. I think that was like the sell for me.
No, that's the thing that I think really worked for this movie is that it is inherently a heist movie in a fantasy setting.
Because quest movies, the problem with quest movies, we go too long with them always. We never just keep a quest nice and simple. It's always a twisty and turny. And we got to go kind of more metaphorical with the quest. It's never like a direct quest. So anyway, we kept it a heist. Now, there's because of that, there's like a Three Musketeers vibe to it, which I thought was like really welcome, really warranted there. I will say, so again, it's a little long in the tooth in Act 2. I just Yeah, I don't know. I kind of the directors that worked on this. They're writing partners. They do a lot of stuff together. They did Game Night was the movie they directed. It turned out really well. This I'd like to see more action from it because there's kind of like a Guardians of the Galaxy vibe to this, ish vibe, more like ish being the emphasis there. It's kind of a Guardians of the Galaxy ish vibe to this movie. And I wouldn't mind seeing them do more stuff like this, or like I'm not saying necessarily more Dungeons Dragon sequels, just more stuff like in this vein because they've done kind of comedy and usually comedies with capers. So yeah,
okay,
be good to see.
All right, so obviously, like when Ray Stevenson died, one of the big blank spots with me is I have not seen Punisher Warzone, so I made the correction on that, and yeah, it's pretty wonderful. It honestly might be, and granted, I'm gonna put an asterisk next to the Deadpool movies because I know those are your babies, and I really can't look at them as through the same eyes as you do. But for my money, Punisher Warzone has got to be one of the all-time best R-rated comic book movies in the sense that like it truly encapsulates sort of like the grimy, seedy, over-the-top, violent kind of qualities of adult comic books. I really love the cast here. Like the version of Jigsaw we get in this is just so much more compelling than basically a lot of the stuff that we get in this is a lot more compelling than the Netflix show. Like this Micro Wayne Knight. I mean, come on. You're never going to compete with Wayne Knight.
Well, so now you get an idea of what I was up against when we were going through the Punisher in terms of what I had before this, in terms of like, the stuff we were adapting there.
So my whole thing is like, I truly think that the rooftop episode of Daredevil season 2, where it's just Punisher and Frank having a conversation for the most. That is the best Punisher media there's ever been.
No, I agree. It's my favorite scene. That's my favorite Punisher scene, period, that they adapted in that. Yeah.
But I will say, I think Warzone mops the fucking floor with the actual Punisher show.
Okay.
I mean, I liked season 2. I thought season 2 was an improvement over season 1 for the Punisher series. But like, oh my god, this feels just so authentic.
See, a lot of people are divided on Jigsaw in this movie. I'm surprised you liked him as much as you did.
I really like Jigsaw. You know who else I really liked?
His brother?
Looney Bin Jim.
Yep, Looney Bin Jim.
Oh my god, what a great character.
Yep. You recognize what movie he's from, don't you?
Doug Hutchinson? What is he from?
Doug Hutchinson. You know Doug.
Who is Doug?
Green Mile. He was in Green Mile.
Okay.
So he went crazy when they put him in that cell, and this is what happened. No, he died. No, he lived.
And then also, like, on top of this movie being a pretty hardcore, violent movie, it still has, like, Frank Castle does definitely have a heart. I love the arc of... I love the whole dilemma, the inciting incident, where it's like an innocent cop gets killed because of something that Frank was involved in. And
he killed an undercover cop
for that. Yeah. Like, I fucking love that as a setup for a Punisher movie. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what my holdup with watching this thing was, because it was pretty damn good.
Well, remember, it had like all that competition in 08, so I think probably got overshadowed for you.
I mean, in 08, yes, but it's been many, many years since it came out. I very much should have seen it before now.
Yep.
All right.
One good thing I can say about Rob Zombie is he has like the catchiest Punisher song ever.
Does he?
That's it. At the end of the movie, they play "In the War Zone." That's his song.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, last one for me. Dragon Ball Superhero.
Yeah, I was so happy to see this on your list.
Yeah, so I saw this for my birthday. The guys, we had a little thing, and we meant to watch this beforehand, but things get kind of jumbled up, so they brought it over, and we watched it. So of course, I love Dragon Ball. I love the whole Dragon Ball thing. I've watched the Dragon Ball Super show, so I'm all caught up on that because right now there's been like a big delay on like all those episodes and stuff. So right now there's the movies. The movies are blind spots for me in terms of when I get these super movies or super adjacent movies, I'm going in pretty blind. This is a lot. So we have Dr. Gero. He's he has his grandson. He's making like androids that are essentially superheroes as a way of rebranding the Red Ribbon Army, and so we have that going on. It's a way we get kind of new androids and stuff. And I was worried about the androids going to this movie because they always looked. See, Super gets really ambitious in terms of like we're going that blend of like Dragon Ball Toriyama, like the early Toriyama style, and then the Dragon Ball Z Toriyama era, and you get some weird things occasionally in terms of look, and we kind of push certain things, but we have that, and we kind of dress him like the Great Saiyan Man. Now, I love the Great Saiyan Man, so I think ultimately that's why that worked. But basically Gohan's Smallville years. But I tell you, man, the big highlight of this movie for me is Piccolo. I always loved, as I think a lot of people, we love
Piccolo is without question. Like for me, it's not even that close. He is without question my favorite Dragon Ball character.
Like this movie is obviously it's a love. Here's the thing: these movies are very much the love letters to the fans. Like this is very much the Piccolo love letter movie. It's like we love Piccolo. We want to make sure we do right by him. And of course, I love Piccolo and Gohan's dynamic. Always have, and I love. It's so charming. See, I'm like one of the only people that likes older Gohan. So I like when we do older Gohan stuff. And I like the idea of Gohan now being a dad, and we're actually spending.
I think older Gohan has a shit ton of potential just from a character development point of view.
Exactly. This movie actually gets into that for a change. And I just love the bits where we have like Piccolo just kind of marveling.
I love how terrifying Chi-Chi is in this movie, by the way.
Well, she's always terrifying.
Oh, I know, but.
Yeah. But yeah, so the point being, like, you Piccolo and Gohan's like him, like kind of having this interaction with this boy that he's seen grown up now. Gohan's non-biological father.
So very much so.
So the fact that we get to see those two interact and like him being prideful of Gohan and wanting more for him, and also him watching over Pan. My favorite bit is that Piccolo has a rapport with Pan's teacher. The idea that Piccolo is going to PTA meetings. Yeah. I love that so much. The fact that Piccolo still can't drive because of the whole the best episode of Drive, which Tiki, we gotta cover it at some point. We gotta talk about it.
It's just a matter of when, man. I'm totally down.
I know, we gotta do it. Anyway, so the movie overall, it's pretty good. Admittedly, the third act, we did Kaiju Cell. We didn't need to do Kaiju Cell. That's it's what it is. Plus, it didn't even absorb the android, so it felt kind of, off. But yeah, it's the point. But it's nice seeing older Gohan and Piccolo team up. We have some good gags in there. The comedy is great. Little Gohan. Again, Gohan losing his crap and going off and killing a cell never gets old. But I wish it was not just a giant kaiju cell we threw in there. So, good movie. You're always swing a little for the fences with the super stuff. So, I mean, is it like peak Dragon Ball for me? Does it replace Dragon Ball? No, but there's a movie, that's a show. It's kind of different. So overall, I had a great time with it with my buddies, just watching this, and it's kind of weird seeing Piccolo now having kind of essentially a Super Saiyan form.
Right.
But yeah, it was a delight. It was a treat.
Cool. Okay, so Dave, really quick, we already did a full podcast on it. I mean, Dragon, I'm not gonna lie, I really do like it a lot. It's a really solid movie. I don't think I can ever love it the same way that you do, just because, like, I feel like you just have an attachment to it that I just don't. But, I mean, it's very solid. It's a nice little 90s romantic comedy. I don't know. I kind of feel like it's about on the same level as Blast from the Past, honestly. Like, that kind of, like, it's a fun little high concept comedy. It's very poignant. Don't get me wrong. It is very poignant, but I don't know. I just feel like the way you hyped it up, I feel like it was kind of like inevitably like, I like it a lot. I don't love it, if I'm being totally honest.
I'm just telling you, man, Ving Rhames saying like, I take a bullet for you, Dave. Like, come on.
Okay. And then finally we have
The Birds.
The Birds, yeah. Richard Fission's Dragon Ball Z as in snoring. Got him. Okay, so The Birds is like, when I was a kid.
Little indie film. No one's ever heard of it.
When I was a kid, I was fucking terrified of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, no joke. It was one of those movies where it's like, I would go out of my way to even avoid like seeing any footage of it. Like, just the concept of it existing fucking terrified me. I've always had a phobia of large amounts of small creatures ganging up on you to overpower you. That's always been a phobia of mine, and the birds obviously encapsulates that very much so. But here's the thing about the birds. Bodega Bay is literally like 20 minutes away from my hometown. So like, and the really interesting thing about the birds is that even though American Graffiti was shot in my hometown, and my hometown does not let you forget that, let's just put it that way, I feel like the really interesting thing about the birds is that you can tell that Hitchcock discovered Bodega Bay, probably on a vacation or something, and fell in love with the town, fell in love with the culture, fell in love with the scenery, and made a movie around the town. Because my God, Dragon, it is fascinating to me how, even though this movie is obviously, like, I'm pretty sure it's 60. It just turned 60, I think.
I think that's right, yeah.
But the town really does not look or feel all that different from the way that it is depicted in the film. Like, even down to the local culture. And so, I don't know. I was really blown away by that. I will say there is definitely some wonky green screen in this movie. Like, after I got over my fears of the movie, when I was like a teenager and adult, I kind of avoided it just on the basis of sort of, you know, the birdemic of it all, basically. I just didn't want it to, I was worried that it would not live up to the legends, especially with it being kind of like a local legend with the Bodega Bay factor. And I will say, I do think that certain crowd scenes, you know, certain chase sequences where the birds are very obviously on a green screen, they don't really hold up. What does hold up, though, is all the practical stuff that he does with birds. That one scene where the church or the school kids are singing, and the main character's waiting outside the school, and the camera keeps panning back and forth to the jungle gym, and more crows keep gathering on the jungle gym. Holy shit. I mean, that is up there with like the best, like that is classic grade A Hitchcock suspense. So I definitely don't think this is like up there with like a Vertigo or a Psycho or a Rear Window. But it's probably like the notch below that. I'd say if those are S tier Hitchcock, this is pretty solidly A tier Hitchcock. And I do also like that there is some solid character development in here as well. And there is a pretty shocking death kind of towards the middle of the movie. It isn't as revolutionary of a plot twist as Psycho, but it's still like, oh wow, I was really getting invested in that character and she's just gone now. Fuck. I like how the main romantic interest in this is kind of like a mysterious man who has vaguely Norman Bates style mother issues. It's just a lot of really interesting kind of like, you know, Hitchcock playing around with his familiar things. Okay. And that's about it. Richard's Victim says, so Hitchcock was like, I love this place. Quick, wife, give me birds. We need an excuse to make a movie here. Give me birds. Okay, Richard's Victims. Okay, so random. How excited for Oppenheimer I am, because like it's first time Nolan movie is doing a flat out biopic. Yeah, first time he's doing a biopic, yes.
Yeah.
Because obviously you wouldn't count Dunkirk as a biopic.
I mean, it's not a biopic. It's like vaguely,
it's a historical movie.
Yeah, it's a historical.
Yeah. Like Dunkirk. One of the things that stands out about Dunkirk is the distinct lack of characters.
Of course, what few people know is that actually Memento is a biopic, but it's.
Of course, Dunkirk. The one character that does stand out is the one who utters the title of the movie.
Dunkirk.
All right. So June, we've already seen Spider-Verse.
We're gonna have the hold off now because it came out in June, so it didn't.
Of course. We'll be doing a spoiler cast on that this coming Sunday.
Yep.
Dragon, I know we are running low on time, but let me just kind of pull up because I do like to do the whole like what movies are we looking forward to.
We also got to do best and worst, but
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Why don't you start us off with that?
All right. I don't really have. I'm looking at it. I don't really. Okay, I know the word. Okay, worst is gonna, but de facto it's gonna, but not aggressive. It's gonna have to be Peter Pan and Wendy. It's not good, so it's just not. Worst is a little harsh, but worst is Peter Pan and Wendy. Best. It's got to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I mean, come on.
Okay, yeah, for me, best, like, I don't know. I could go a couple different directions. Like, it's very tempting to put The Birds on there because obviously it's a big Stone Cold classic. Very tempted to put Guardians Volume 3 on there. I don't know. I think just for the whole hometown pride of it all, I'm probably going to have to lean into Guardians Volume 3. And what the fuck do you think was the worst movie I saw this month, Dragon?
Howard the Duck.
Yes.
Yep.
Fast X, you've been saved. You've been spared by the duck.
The only thing that could save Fast X.
I know, right? That and Jason Momoa, clearly.
Howard the Duck. Look, there he is.
Okay, so let's see. We have in June The Boogeyman, which I am planning on seeing. Fucking Transformers Rise of the Beast, which I am not planning on seeing. Got The Flash. Oh, Jesus Christ.
So we'll be seeing The Flash. Yeah.
I mean, I already knew that The Flash and Elemental were going up against each other. I didn't realize that Asteroid City was hitting that exact too. Yeah. Oh man, that's crazy.
This Flash is Elemental.
Dial of Destiny. All I can say about Dial of Destiny is like Disney made a big mistake releasing that as early as they did. I hate the fact that Rotten Tomato score is just floating around the internet like a. But I don't know. It sucks. That whole situation sucks. And then Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, Dragon. I'm sorry. I am genuinely pretty hyped for that. I'm sorry. All right. Well, folks, also just to thank Richard's Victims, Claude Kringa, and Z and K channel. You guys are all awesome. And, well, folks, we've waxed on long enough. It's time to put the gun down. But don't worry. We'll be back again next month for another fitting chapter in our... Memoirs. Are you there, God? It's me, Mario.